Hey, Jen Toscano here, and welcome to the Monday night live stream, actually happening on Monday night. Sometimes, recently, it's
Jen
been
Toscano
on.
here, and welcome to the Monday
Oh
night
wait, hold
live
on,
stream,
guys.
actually happening on Monday night.
I have to
Sometimes-
mute stuff.
Recently, it's been on.
Oh, I'm sorry, guys. I had YouTube on. I was listening to myself while I was talking. I take it back. I'm sorry. Hey, welcome to the Monday night live stream on Monday night, September 12th, right? I can't believe it's September 12th. And tonight's episode is kind of different. I've done this once before, or a couple times before, but not in a while, where I have a guest in the studio. So I actually have a guest in studio tonight, which is going to be super fun. It has been super fun. We've been having fun before the stream even began. The last one I had in here with somebody live, it was my buddy Dave Clive with the Gretsch Museum, and he had his collection of Gretsch snare drums in here. So we had the mic, we were showing actual snare drums. So I also want to mention that next week my guest is Joe Franco, who, when I was a kid, I was doing his double bass book. And the week after that is going to be Wilfredo Reyes Jr. is going to be on the show. Of course, not in studio, but he'll be on the show. And there's some great episodes coming up in October as well. And one of those episodes, I'm going to have my accountant on. And I thought, why not have a music accountant on? He's the music accountant to many, many musicians that I know. But Alan will be on with me, my accountant, and we're going to talk about skills for musicians when it comes to business and accounting. So I think that'll be a fun episode to have. And, you know, I will definitely bring on other business skills ones as we go along. I think maybe an accountant, maybe like a publicist, you know, a few different people that can help us with some business skills. So, man, my guest tonight is a good friend of mine. Oh, before I do that, one more thing. I just want to thank some companies. So Prologix Percussion, very supportive. I love this company. The guys at Prologix have been so great. I just want to give a shout out to them. Offset Pedals, Sabian Cymbals, Blackmagic Designs, Focusrite Pro Audio, which is a company I'm now working with very closely, and I've worked with them for many, many years, but now it's sort of solidified into a working relationship. And of course, Vader Drumsticks. So there is that. Now I'm going to tell about my guest. So my guest tonight is a friend of mine. I think we met maybe in 2008. I'm thinking maybe 2008, probably at PASIC, or actually, no, it was a clinic that we did together at Edison Sam Ash, right? So we'll have to talk about that. We were on a clinic together, and so we met there, and we've kind of kept in touch ever since, and definitely bumped into each other at a million drum events. And we were just this last year on the panel at PASIC for drum teachers and technology. What was the name of that thing? We'll get to that too. So my guest tonight is a great drummer who hails from New Jersey, right across the little creek that divides us here on Staten Island. He's done all kinds of work on Broadway, Trans-Siberian Orchestra, Mark Woods, Queen, this ultimate Queen thing that we're going to talk about, which is really amazing. He has a book that he co-wrote, The Drummer's Bible. He was an educator at Drummers Collective, very prestigious Drummers Collective in New York City. And he's also a private educator, does tons of touring and recording. He even played on Spongebob Squarepants soundtrack, which is like totally nuts. My guest tonight, Jason Gianni. There he is.
What kind of intro was that? That
was
was
bad?
awful.
It was pretty
like
bad,
the
right?
worst thing I've ever seen.
That was a pretty bad
Actually,
intro.
you know what? It was a great intro with a horrible timer that didn't work clicking down into your live stream.
Oh, yeah. So the countdown timer didn't work tonight. See, one of the things that I've learned a long time ago is don't update software right before you go live. So I updated OBS, which is the streaming software that I use, and the countdown timer crapped out. So we were like watching the countdown timer, which said, why does it say 4 minutes and 57 seconds forever? So that didn't quite work, did it?
But we're here, and it's working, apparently.
We're here, and it's working. And if anybody is hanging in the stream, just let us know about the health of the stream and that it all looks and sounds good. I appreciate it. And I'll bring up the chat window shortly, and we'll check in with anybody that's hanging in the chat. And we'll keep that down below so we can say hi to y'all. So, Jason, man.
Hey, buddy.
Thanks for hanging.
Oh my God, I'm so happy. Can I just say something first, really? Honestly. Yeah. Not only am I very happy to be here and honored to be here, but I am, as a friend of yours, very, very proud of, what you've done recently with, everything you've done tech-wise with all the big-name guys and this amazing show. And it's great to see your star really rising and all the great things you're doing. And I'm very proud of you, but I'm also just very happy to be here. So thank you. So
that deserves a hug.
Good night. Oh, you want a hug? Okay.
Yeah, I want a hug.
I was just going to leave.
See, you know what's so funny? Even though, watch this. It's like he's in another dimension. Isn't that interesting?
I'm not interested in that at all.
I'm
really.
sorry.
No.
Oh my God! So we just came from just having a little diner snackage.
did.
Yeah, we just hung at the diner, and we're sort of catching up.
Mhm.
It's been probably a little while. I think over the pandemic, we probably hung at least once online.
Well, we
or
were at
twice.
PASIC last year, obviously, doing the thing. And then online, we hung a few times.
Yeah.
And, it's just a weird time because we all want to be together and hang out. And our drum family, has changed quite a bit in the last couple of years because of the pandemic and how we're doing things and this sort of new normal that everyone is, talking about and stuff. But, it makes these times more special that we get to catch up. And it's funny, as I'm thinking that, I'm like, oh my God, I still haven't even made my PASIC plans yet. So I'm not even sure if I'm going to see you there. But
Wow.
I want to because he's doing a clinic, so make sure to go.
I'll be there. Room 105 on Friday at 11 or something.
That was my slot
I don't know if
time.
I
Oh, no.
have the.
No, that wasn't my slot time. Anyway, go ahead. Yeah.
But yeah, so super excited. I mean, we've both been to PASIC a bazillion times, and we know the rooms. You go into room 105, you see a ton of great clinics, and we've seen our comrades and peers and heroes perform there. So if you've not been to PASIC, you really should go.
Yes.
But it's kind of fun being there as doing a clinic after being in those rooms all the time. It'll feel kind of like kind of at home.
Mm-hmm.
A little nervous about it because I'm setting up a massive amount of gear to do this thing, and it's all hinged on computers and cameras working, which
Yeah.
But it'll be fun.
Oh, it's
It'll
gonna be
fun.
it's gonna be great.
Yeah.
I have a funny story about my PASIC experience when I gave my first clinic. Was actually, well, let me back up. In 1990 or 91, I forget which specific year. I was a freshman at the University of Delaware. We'll talk about the history, I'm sure, and everything.
Yeah.
But they got all the students to volunteer for the Philadelphia PASIC. And I was volunteered to set up for Billy Cobham's clinic. and I'm obviously a very big Billy fan and everything. I set up his kit and I was asking him questions. And I have this picture of him playing this old, I don't even remember what kit it was. Some big red, I think, Tama or something like that. I gave a clinic at PASIC, and my clinic is right before Billy Cobham's clinic. And it was like one of those weird, circles sort of connecting sort of, and I'm like, wow, this is just all really strange, man, So
Wow.
it's neat. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
now, do you have pictures of the kit? No.
Of his from 91?
Yeah.
I do.
You do?
Yeah.
Oh
I
my
showed it
God.
to him. I brought it with me, and I'm like, you got to see this, man. I'm like, I set up your kit. Now I'm playing before you.
Oh my
and
God.
And he even laughed about it. And I don't remember where I put it. It's somewhere in an album somewhere. But
Isn't it
it's
nerve-wracking to play before your heroes, right?
Yeah.
That's inevitably,
Yeah.
kind of the way it goes, right?
I played the entire Spectrum album.
Awesome. By the way, just, as a little tangent with this, so his kit from Warning is at Dom's studio,
Oh, really?
in Dom's room.
Wow. Isn't
And
that cool?
because, Billy is going on tour and they're doing the Warning record. And so they found the Warning kit somewhere. Somebody had bought it a
Yeah.
long time ago, and they found it and they bought it and they shipped it to Dom's studio. So I have pictures of us opening up the cases, looking at the drums, but it's got that interesting insignia that's sort of like, I don't even know. It's like a weird teardrop thing, and then a reverse teardrop or something.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's that blue kit with the Warning logo on it.
That's
so it's
neat.
pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's like a shit ton of drums. I mean, it's a lot of drums.
a lot of history there.
A lot of history. So you and I started to talk about kind of how we met.
Yeah.
And so we did the Drum Summit.
We did
clinic?
a couple ones together, but I don't remember which one came first.
Yeah.
I think it was the which one was the one at Carl Place? Was that the Drum Summit?
Carl Place was, I guess that was under the label of Drum Summit,
Okay,
too.
so I think it was the Edison one where we first met.
Yeah.
And I was pretty, excuse me, I was still kind of fresh on the scene. Again, going back in my history of just, I'm from here, but moving back from California.
Okay.
So that was probably my first clinic back since moving.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And then it spun out from there. But it was fun because I knew Dom very well. I studied with Dom, but I didn't know you at the time and a couple other people that were on it. I don't remember who else was on it. I remember more about the summit than anything.
Yeah.
Peter Greco and some of those other guys.
Right.
But it was a great experience because it was the first time that it was like, okay, I'm back, I'm home.
Yeah.
Okay, now we're doing a cool clinic. It's it was neat.
Nice.
So yeah, that was the first time we met. Yeah.
I think the one that we did in Carl Place, Jules Rodino was on it.
Yep.
Drummer from Blue Oyster Cult.
Jules.
Hi, Jules.
Our
Jules
buddy.
is gonna be doing the show at some point, which
Cool.
was trying to work out dates. Jules is a great guy.
Great.
I remember Jeff Indike.
Indike. Yeah.
Indike. Yeah.
He was on it. Yep.
He was on it. Peter Greco.
Yeah.
Um,
I think Madden class played.
Yeah.
She was very young at the time.
Yeah,
Peter's
yeah,
student.
yeah.
She played and
right.
it was
That's
fun.
right.
Fun
yeah,
night.
it was good fun. And then again at Edison, and the one
Mm-hmm.
at Edison, I remember just chatting with you about, because I was starting to get into sort of this layered playing kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing, and you were doing polyrhythmic stuff with your feet, and I was like, oh, this is like so cool, so perfect, and we hit it off really well.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
super fun.
Yeah, man.
So that goes back a ways.
Yeah, man. It's
Yeah,
been 15 years for sure.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, time flies. I think about the 10 years I spent in California, and now I'm already back home for 15 or 16 years, and
Yeah.
it's just blowing my mind how fast everything's going, and I just wanted to slow down, but that's not happening.
Time, we were talking about that earlier, like just time flying.
Yeah.
By the way, we're both giving our shout out and love to Dom. So Dom
Hi,
and
Dom.
the drum community
Miss you and love you.
is wrapping themselves around you right now.
Mhm.
We miss you, and if you happen to turn this craziness on, we're saying hi to you right now.
Yes.
Let me see do I have it queued up?
I don't know. I play the drums. I like Italian food. I like to fish.
Thank you, Dom. Always, you got something perfect to say. That's him. So, by the way, that's from Dom's book, The Cycle of Self-Empowerment. So if you don't have his book, get it on audio, because then you can do sound bites like that, and it's super fun.
That's great.
So, man, and I want to get into the book. I want to get into your whole story.
Sure.
But let's just talk briefly about sort of, and I know it's kind of like, old hat at this point. Like a lot of people are kind of like, enough with the COVID stuff. But
Yep.
over the last couple of years, the landscape really changed for everybody. I mean, thinking about how we work, finding different avenues, finding sort of other ways in the music business that we can stay relevant and stay busy and stay working. And so how did you navigate that, and what was kind of your path?
Yeah, I got a little lucky in that, well, first of all, I had set up a studio like yours in my basement, not nearly as advanced, but a couple years before. And so I was already recording from home. I was already teaching from home. I wasn't as advanced as I am now as far as some of the software. And I actually ended up, during COVID, teaching myself a lot more about Logic and mixing. And, we all kind of got into that world more, But the collective was making a big change to being, it was bought out by another company, and they wanted to go with a lot more online presence. So one of the things that they wanted to do was they wanted to put the majority of our curriculum online. And not just, hey, get online and teach or whatever, but also even the library of songs that we do for the students in all the different levels. They wanted to get that where there would be play-along videos and play-along audio and stuff. So I kind of spearheaded this with my MIDI setup, where I took all the songs and I did MIDI layouts of everything. And then everybody at their instrument recorded the real parts. I did the drum tracks, Bob Quarant did the piano, Irio did bass. There was like a lot of different people involved. And now our entire first year has drums minus or guitar minus or piano -1 versions and videos that go along with it. So if a student wants to record themselves doing it, they get put into the video.
Oh, that's
so
cool.
For about 9 months, I was actually busy doing all of that.
Wow.
Yeah. So there was, some financial gain behind that, and there was a lot of stuff, So that kept me busy for a while, on top of doing the normal online teaching. I met a lot of people online, composing and doing stuff like that. But that was kind of the basis of the money at the time. And of course, you probably went through this too. There was a lot of financial aid with the banks holding off mortgages and not having to pay all these bills. So it was just enough to kind of keep us kind of almost, we weren't using gas money and,
right.
So everything was sort of just leveled out, was interesting.
That's an interesting point. Yeah, like the whole travel thing. You know, Dom was even saying this. He was like, he goes, it feels so good not to travel.
Yeah.
You know, like not running to the airport all the time, or even just being in the car. It was like kind of this time. It actually gave people sort of a time to sort of reflect and process everything a little bit. Yeah, so I found it to be really meditative time. I got heavy into meditation.
Yeah.
Over the pandemic too.
Yeah.
So that was kind of a thing. But sort of stepping back, having the ability to step back. Not everybody had that. I mean, there were definitely people that just struggling the whole time. And so I feel really fortunate that I was able to take a breather. There was sort of there was an adjustment period for me where it was like students were like, oh, so we're not coming in person. And then they had to figure out about how are they going to do the online thing. So there's like a gap of like a couple of weeks where it was sort of like things were in flux.
Yeah.
Everything was kind of moving into place, and then it kind of got busy for me.
Yeah.
And with the the tech thing, it got busy quick.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so like not having gigs, not having to travel, you took the time, you learned some more about Logic. You took some time to dig into stuff. I think a lot of people did that. Do you feel like now, having had that time, now like you can go in your studio and you feel really confident? Yeah.
Much better. I mean, things are different now with my. There was never. I was always scattered with my schedule, but before COVID, it was a lot more structured.
Okay.
These days I'd be at the Collective. I'd have this night off.
Right.
Maybe this Broadway show would come up or something, or maybe this would come up. I was on the road a lot with the Ultimate Queen celebration before the pandemic. So part of the pandemic for me was being home with my family and looking around going, oh yeah, I have those people in my house, you know, and not having to go anywhere, But one thing I've noticed after the pandemic is that it's been great and a struggle at the same time. It's been great in that I'm now working with gigs and people that are like everything I've wanted to work for. Like for some reason, something happened where now everything is like a level 10 with what I'm working for.
Nice.
But on the other side of things, there's no structure. It was like just a pile of shit thrown against the wall, and now I'm going, okay, this night I have to do this, but I have to write this in my calendar. I have like texts on my phone right now where I'm like, can't talk to you now, not around my calendar, get back to you tonight.
Yeah.
So it's been really hard to balance that.
Yeah.
But I'm very fortunate in that the things that I did during COVID have paid off. Doing all the sessions from home and doing a lot of record stuff.
Yeah.
I actually just cut a single a couple months ago for Candlebox from my basement.
Oh, sweet.
It's like, man,
Yeah.
God,
Isn't it amazing?
It's amazing, like God, I was in my underwear, So, that's kind of the way things have sort of have been laid out now, where it's the work is. The stuff that I did during COVID, probably you too, has really paid off for what I'm doing now. But it's a lot more like this, like, oh my God, I got to kind of like clear my head over a couple of weekends or something,
Yeah, there's definitely a certain amount of scatteredness with me too. Like I feel like the last couple of weeks, I've been feeling that like sort of, wow, like things are not as structured and as controlled as they were.
Yeah.
Like something right now is switching, which is, it's all good. I mean, look, you learn to take what's in front of you and to be flexible and just roll with it.
Yeah.
Sure. And if you get a text where if you don't take it, you might lose the gig. Take it.
Yep.
While we're doing this,
Yep.
we can do that.
My phone is ringing right now.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I'm
I
noticing,
heard
I'm
it.
like,
Yeah. It's like the
Nah,
gig. But yeah, like the remote session thing is such a great thing. I did a little bit of that. I was doing that before COVID, and much more since.
Yeah.
During COVID, full length records, which was great. And then like today, same thing. Just another track came in.
Yep.
So it's like there's always that stuff coming in. So it's enough to keep a balance of like teaching gigs, recording, and with me the technology thing, and then like producing a show and trying to do all this kind of stuff. Where it keeps me really happy and it's fun and it's challenging and different. I think we're fortunate in that we're not doing exactly the same thing every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing I noticed is that in the first couple of months of COVID and everything that was going on at home, I was like, this is so cool, man. Like, I mean, I should not say that. That's not the right way of saying it because people were very sick. But, you know, it was a really cool situation where I just literally would get up and go downstairs and do my work, and I'd come up and watch a baseball game with nobody in the audience, you know, or something.
Yeah.
You know? But I'm tired of that now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I like being in person more. The ease of the studio thing is cool, especially like you were saying, like when you get, you know, stems of stuff and you're just like, boom, and within minutes you're done with a track. But I very much vibe in person, you know, with either playing with people or, you know, recording or especially teaching.
Yeah.
You know, the teaching thing is really important. I have like, you know, whiteboard. I use like a whole thing when I teach, and you could do it on Zoom with the whiteboard and stuff. But my situation's a little bit different too, because being involved with the collective for 16 years, I have so many international students.
Right.
And they don't study with me on a regular basis, but when they do, they just call up and they're like, hey man, you know, it's like 8 o'clock in China, you know, it's probably 9 o'clock at night. You know, when you wake up in the morning, can you do a lesson with me? You know, things like that. So the online thing has been really, really advantageous in that way. But it's not something that at first was so lovely to do all the time. I want to kind of get out and do what we have done.
Yeah.
And have that balance now, not just in one place, you know.
Did you, in the middle of COVID, did you do any gigs that were where you felt pretty vulnerable?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, right?
Oh, yeah.
Did you do the Midwest at all?
During COVID?
Yeah.
I can't remember.
That first summer.
Yeah. Like when no one was wearing masks and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Oh, my God. Like, literally, we were playing this festival in the Midwest, and nobody was masked, like anti-vax, totally anti-vax, looking at us like we're nuts because we had masks on.
Right.
Walking through the hotel lobby, it's like people were like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
But like, we thankfully didn't get COVID, but it was like, man, we just felt like, wow, are we on another planet? Like, nobody seemed concerned whatsoever. You know, it's really weird. Like Wisconsin and Ohio, it was like, it's weird.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I did. I think also there was, remember, we were like, you know, there was that hospital in Brooklyn that was, I think it was Brooklyn or Lower East Side or something. I was like, you know, ground zero, right? So we were like at the center of everything.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, we need to wear masks. We need to do this.
Oh, yeah.
And then there was other areas of the country that were just not touched by it at all. It's
That's
almost like,
true.
are they making this up? You know?
Yeah, that's true.
So
yeah, people were like skeptical. I was like, no. Like in Manhattan, they had refrigerated trucks for like people that were passing away
God,
so
it's
quickly.
awful.
You know, like, you know.
I hate to laugh, but yeah.
Yeah,
it was like-
I mean, it was a different thing.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So it's an interesting time, you know, coming out of this. Yeah.
Cool. Well, so I want to know, like, because I really don't know any of this. So how did you get like your whole start with drumming?
Yeah.
What was like? So can you remember? There's two things I want you to remember.
Okay.
The thought of when you wanted to play.
Yep.
And the feeling that accompanied that thought. And hold that for 1 second.
Yep.
So I was doing a little school clinic at a middle school or something. Oh, it was an elementary school with a middle school. And there was a little kid walking by, and he peeked in the auditorium, and I was on stage playing.
Okay.
So like an auditorium of kids
Yep.
for a music program. And I saw him just standing in the doorway
Yeah.
like this.
Deer in the headlights.
And I was like this, and he didn't come in. And then I hear later that he went up to the band teacher or something,
Right.
and then they got to his mom, and his mom got to me, or
Yeah.
somehow. And he told me that I saw you playing in my auditorium,
And he's going to remember that forever.
and he was like,
yeah.
I want to do that.
That's so cool.
So that
Yeah.
feeling, like where he probably had like little goosebumps or something and was like kind of freaking out. Like, do you remember the thought and then the feeling?
There were, yes. But there were different times.
Okay.
So I started a little later than I wanted to. I actually picked up the drumsticks for the first time for real, meaning on a pad and in a lesson at school when I was 11. But okay, let me go back because then I'm going to be all over the map. So mom told me the first time I ever led the parade in nursery school was 3. Okay, I don't remember it. I don't remember picking up drumsticks. She said I had the drum and I was like literally like just walking and they were doing the parade. I don't remember that at all. obviously the pots and pans. Everybody's got that story. I do remember a little bit of that, like being on the kitchen floor.
Pots and pans. Do you know what my version of pots and pans, besides the pots and pans, was?
What?
I had this. My mom got me this night helmet.
Okay.
Like it had the little thing. That
Yeah,
moved, I don't
visor
know,
or
whatever.
something. Yeah.
And a sword, but it had a shield, and the shield had a little handle, and it was metal.
Okay.
I played the shield
Okay.
like a cymbal,
Yeah.
and then pillows. She had throw pillows that were all different sizes, that had different.
Yeah.
Dum, dum.
Okay. Yep.
So it was a shield and the throw pillows. Go.
So
Sorry.
I had a black leather chair, and I had a wicker basket,
Nice.
and I was playing to "You Want to Be Starting Something" by Michael Jackson. And you're going, you know, and I was probably
Nice.
I had already started piano by then, but like I was probably like 10 or something. But it still wasn't the official like time.
the
But
official thing.
right. But the first feeling I had, you were talking about the feeling, right? 1979. Best friend growing up, Evan Getz, and I, and my other best friend, John Schuster, and Evan's dad, went to Kiss Madison Square Garden. So I was 7,
79.
and so I wasn't officially playing anything yet, but I saw them do their thing, especially Ace's guitar on fire, like going across the stage.
Dynasty tour.
Dynasty.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
And I was like, I want to do that.
Yeah.
That was the first time I ever said I wanted that. But the funny thing was I wasn't playing anything yet.
Right.
So it was a weird sort of dichotomy where like I want to do that, but I don't know what I'm doing yet.
Would Judas Priest open, by the way?
I don't remember. I don't remember. I'm not really sure. Hey guys, what's up? Everybody, hey Mike. Hey Chris.
Okay, we're going to check in with you guys
Yeah,
in just
lots
a minute.
of people saying hi.
Yeah, a lot of love. All right, we're going to check in one,
Hey Pete.
one second.
And Steve.
So Judas Priest opened.
Yeah.
I saw them at Nassau Coliseum.
Okay.
1979.
Okay.
Dynasty tour.
Yeah.
So on that show, Peter was still in the band.
Yes.
Now, the band Angel was at the show, which was weird. I met Greg Giuffria, the keyboard
Yep.
player. And Judas Priest opened, and Rob Halford rode out on the stage on a motorcycle.
Don't remember that.
And I looked at my mom, who was with me, and I went, who the hell are they? Like, I didn't know about opening bands.
Right.
So, like, what are they doing? That's not Kiss.
What's that?
Yeah, so we saw the same tour.
We saw the same tour. Yeah, that's amazing.
Wow.
Yeah. And we liked the same club sandwiches, and we saw the same tour.
We both
liked
are
the same music.
lifetime members of the Turkey Club.
Except I get add ham and I get soft bacon. But that's right.
And I get
Anyway,
turkey bacon.
and
rye bread.
This guy over here.
What's the matter with you?
Wait, let me do the hand thing. There we go. Okay. So that was the first time I had that feeling. And and then I don't remember what happened, but one of my uncles or cousins said to my mom, "You got to get this kid lessons," because I would sit down on my grandmother's piano and I would just start playing. And I also had a friend who would put on MTV and I'd play along. And she'd be like, how do you know how to do that? And I'd honestly say, I don't know.
Right.
I would just do it. And I found out later I had close to perfect pitch and that kind of thing. I just didn't know what I was doing, that sort of thing.
Do you have perfect pitch or really amazing relative pitch?
Probably more that.
Huh.
Yeah,
okay.
and I think it's more that one because it got so good during college and isn't as good now.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like college, it was like you could hit a chord and I'd be like, yeah, that's a B flat, that's a C.
And but you were using that part of your brain a lot at that point.
Oh yeah, because of my degrees. We'll talk about it. My degrees were all in classical percussion. So so I started messing around with piano, but I never took piano lessons. But I was just playing a lot of piano, and my parents had some keyboard. We had like the Casios, and I was doing that. And then in like 11th grade, when I was 11 in 6th grade, that was when I saw a friend carrying some sticks and a pad. And by then I was already playing some like electronic drums. I don't remember the exact order of it, but a lot of things kind of happened around that time because that's when like MTV started and our musical taste started to sort of mature. And I'm like, I'm starting to really listen to stuff now. Mom and dad. It's funny. My history is real strange because this is a mistake. Wait a minute. Hold on. Let me start again. And I actually was an oops, but that being let's get the way for that. But no one in my family are musicians.
Okay.
My dad was a hobbyist bass player. I have a cousin who was a world-class piano player, but became a doctor, became a dermatologist. So dad worked on Wall Street. Grandpa worked on Wall Street. Doctors, lawyers. No one was a musician. No one. So it was kind of like when this all started to happen, it was kind of like, is this what I wanted? Am I going in this direction? Is this what I want to do? But I was just kind of again, like playing on piano and playing with the Def Leppard songs and the MTV and the Michael Jackson. And mom and dad were playing like Motown constantly in the house. So I was totally into like Jackson 5 and Stevie Wonder and, you know, Smokey and all this kind of stuff. And dad was a huge Beatles fan. So it was all getting in. But there was not really that, except for the Kiss thing, there really wasn't that one time where I'm like, I am playing the drums now.
Yeah.
It just kind of all sort of like, you know. And then when I started to play, it was, oh, okay, I was meant to do this, because stuff started just coming really easy from there. You know, reading, everything, you know, just right away.
First drum teacher.
Well, it depends on who you're talking. If you're talking about school, it was Mr. Lulevich. It was 6th grade in Livingston High School.
That was before private lessons.
That was before private lessons. It was just the normal, like, okay, this is how to do a 5-stroke roll.
Yeah.
This is what we play in band, you know, that kind of thing.
So that band director was not a drummer, but had one semester of percussion
methods
method in college and knew enough to,
Correct.
So cool. So what was the first private teacher?
So I can't remember his last name, but so Milburn Music in Milburn, New Jersey.
Okay.
Greg, and his father was why am I forgetting his name? Wayne. Wayne and was Greg? Was that his name? Greg? No, not Greg. I'm sorry. I can't think of his name, but it was his son. He started teaching me, and within months I outgrew him. And then there was a private instructor named Greg in Milburn who was great, and I loved him. And then like a year later, he moved to L.A., and I lost track of who he was.
But you don't know the last names. Anybody from Milburn? No,
Milburn, New Jersey.
Milburn, New Jersey
Wayne
kids.
And God, why am I forgetting his last name? I love them. They were such good guys. Nobody's chiming in on that one. And then throughout high school, I just graduated to Glenn Weber, who's the guy from New Jersey School of Percussion, who took me through years, and we did the All-State together and got me ready for colleges and all that kind of stuff. So
nice.
Yeah.
Let's say hello real quick in the chat, just so I don't get accused of ignoring people. Let me see. I think I made a new chat window. It's not bad.
That was a bigger one there.
Move you up. I'm adjusting the chat right here. Oh, and my face is here. Okay, cool. Okay, here we go. So, I just put it up so you guys can see your own chat. So, first one in, Stacy Keenan. Hello, Jason. Hello, Jim.
Stacy.
How you doing, Stacy? Thank you, Stacy, for following. I appreciate that. I've been seeing you in here a bunch. Bob Sears, my buddy Bob Sears, man, hanging with us.
What's up, Bob?
I just saw Bob on Saturday, and his reading skills are coming together really well. So it's awesome to see Bob reading charts and
there you go.
Playing in a cover band. He just had a gig Saturday night. Good for you, Bob, up in New Hampshire.
Here's some water for you.
Peter Retzlaff hanging with us. Pete!
I miss you, buddy.
Jason misses you, Peter. What is your problem? Call him up every day and make him feel happy. Steve Ford, what's up, Steve?
I don't miss you. I see you every week. I still miss you.
Steve, I owe you a phone call. I know I keep saying that. By the way, I'll have to tell you about this. There's self-booking with the technology stuff. I'll show you how to do that because obviously I haven't been sending out the schedule, so people are getting annoyed with me. But you can self-schedule on my schedule. I'll tell you about that. Rocco Deserto, my student Rocco, who's been in here interning with me a little bit, working in the studio, learning how to wire up interfaces. I've been changing out a lot of gear. So thank you, Rocco. The studio's looking great. Dave Clive from Dave Clive's Gretsch Museum. Dave, do you know about the drama, Mr. Gretschman? I'm not going to say anything. Hi, Jim and Jason. You guys look and sound great. Greetings from Dave Clive's Gretsch Museum. Glad to see you're doing your second in-person show. Yes, indeed. It's probably not the second, but it's about the second. Yeah, something like that. Dave Stenok.
Why do we need to turn down Dave?
Is it too loud for you?
No, he just wants to hear me only.
It might be. I might have the mics a little loud. If anybody else feels that, tell me. I'm not going to move it just for Dave. Only if other people say we're too loud. Jim Mola, what's up, baby?
We just talked about you.
We were talking about you at dinner.
You're gonna come down. We're gonna do a hang like this.
Yeah. So
live
Jim,
sometime.
maybe a threesome live.
What just happened?
I mean a trio.
Did I say that
know
out
what I
loud?
Steve Balgoyan, what's up? I got some studio help from Jim after he helped Stanton get his live stream up and going, and he suggested get in touch. Now I'm learning Logic, and things are sounding great. I recorded drums for a film soundtrack and have an ongoing remote project, adding bass to it tonight. In-person bassist is stopping by after this. Thanks, Jim.
Nice.
Very cool, man. Steve, I'm so excited that's coming along. Very cool. Mike Wojcik, good to see you.
Mikey.
What's up, Mike? Chris Tabaldi, what's up, yo?
Yes. What's up, buddy?
Chris was on that Carl Place clinic.
What? Really?
I think so. Chris, did you do the clinic with were you and I on the
so
same
many years
clinic
ago, I don't remember.
at Carl Place? Let me know. Lucia, what's up?
Lucia.
We talked about you earlier too, Lucia. How we doing tonight? Studio looks great. Awesome. Lucia was in person on Saturday.
Nice.
And brought me chocolate glazed cake donuts that her mom made. Unbelievable.
Why are they not here right now?
I
What's
ate
going
them
on here?
all. That's why they're not here.
Okay.
Okay. Too much info, Mr. Oops. Okay,
yeah.
sorry about that. Facebook user.
Hi, Facebook
Woo,
user.
Hi, Facebook user. Is that really your name?
FU.
Your initials are FU?
FU. Yeah.
Facebook user. Woo. Hi, guys. Okay. John Kill. What's up, John? How you doing, man? John, by the way, your birthday greeting for Dom was awesome. And it was so cool seeing you, Janine, and Bobby Angeletta up at Bobby's Pizzeria. That was bananas. Is Bobby doing paradiddles on the pizzas? Tell me. Let's see. Hello, Rockets, John Gill. Facebook user.
More FU.
More of FU, man. Thank you. He's from me. Oh, that's funny. All right, cool. So if anybody has any questions, actual questions,
Please.
chime in.
Yes.
We would love the questions. That's my switcher. That's also my switcher. Where did we go? There we are.
We're back.
Cool. So yeah, we're gonna get more of the story. If you guys have any questions about Jason's history, any of the gigs that he's doing, the Ultimate Queen thing is really amazing. Definitely field those questions, and remember, this is still available. The Drummer's Bible. Where can we get this?
Amazon. Well,
Amazon,
I mean,
baby.
you could get a lot of places, but I usually suggest Amazon's the easiest and best.
Amazon. Look at that. He's so cute. His picture's back here.
Yeah, I used to be cuter. Not anymore. I don't know what happened. Jesus.
All right. So
Yeah.
we got you kind of through the feeling. I was talking about the
Yeah,
feeling because
right.
because I remember that feeling.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing. It's not tangible. It's nothing,
not. And it comes to you out of the blue. Sometimes you're just like, what just happened?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I really try to get that. Especially when I'm down here just exploring and working on stuff.
Yeah.
Like, when you're working on your polyrhythmic pedal madness, whatever. Like when you're working stuff out, I get that kid sort of
Yeah.
excitement. You got to hold on to that, because if you let that go, it's like you got to remember, why did I start doing this in the first place? I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard because we do this for a living now, and my feelings like that would always come out, especially when I was younger, when I was kind of running and stomping down my stairs to the basement. I always knew it's we're gonna practice, or we're gonna do something cool, or and now it's a little more of a trudge down the stairs, oh God, I gotta practice,
Yeah.
and you gotta kind of find that part in your heart that still loves that, because it's tough. I mean, there are days where I spend 12 hours outside the house,
Right.
Between commuting and rehearsing and teaching and doing this and doing a Broadway gig, which is all great. I love doing it for a living, but I do not want to see a damn drum when I get home.
Of course.
You know?
Yeah.
So it's hard balancing that out,
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I feel like with recording, if it's new music, original music.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And you hear that back, or you
and
mix it.
Yeah, it's the first first
Yeah.
like read through,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes that I get that little buzz where it's like, this is cool.
Mm-hmm.
Or if and especially if it's a tune that really like, you go like, I could do something really creative with that.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess you gotta find the joy where you can.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to find it. No, I'm kidding.
Nice.
That's good.
So we kind of got you up to like sort of grade school.
Yeah.
Is sort of like all our phones are lighting up. Why is that?
Like no one on mine.
Getting that first, the first teacher, in school, outside of school, getting private lessons.
Right.
And then where did it kind of take you from there? What was the next part of your journey?
Yeah. So there was everything I was talking about before with my parents and my family not being musicians scared me in a way where I knew I wanted to go to school for music. I knew I wanted to do it the right way. My parents were always really supportive and saying, do it the right way, go by the rules, have backup plans, things like that. But in the back of my mind, I was still kind of going, but I'm going to get out there. I'm going to have to do this all myself. No one is going to help me.
Right.
And that scared me for many years. Even while in my formidable years and I was working on stuff, I was still scared about that, But at some point, maybe, junior or senior year after going through Allstate and doing all these competitions and all this kind of stuff, I was like, I think I'm going to school for music. There's nothing else.
Yeah.
It's like, your parents would always say, have a backup plan. It's not like I'm going to play music and then be an astronaut or something like that,
right.
But the backup plan ended up being all this other stuff that we'll end up talking about, the book and and teaching and playing and this and that and the other thing. So my first thought was that I should probably go to a school like a university that would work into my backup plan.
Okay.
And that if I went to a Berkeley and I went to just a drum set school, that might not be part of the future backup plan.
Yeah.
And I actually got a pretty sizable scholarship to go to Juilliard. But they were just in the early 90s, just starting their jazz program.
Yeah.
It didn't really kick in fully yet.
Right.
And if maybe it was now, it would be a different story. But I decided to go to university. So I went to the University of Delaware. They had a great music program. It was just a wonderful sort of vibe there. And I did 4 years in classical. And,
Nice.
Marched and did the whole thing. But, marimba competitions and
Wow.
orchestral stuff and then at the end of college, I was like on the fence about doing graduate school. I wasn't sure. I was pretty burnt out, and I was like, I don't know. I want to go to New York and work. And then I got this offer to audition for an assistantship to teach and do my master's at Penn State. And I did it, and
Nice.
And so I did another 2 years, and so I have masters in orchestral percussion, taught drum set at that level. And I have a jazz minor in drum set, and so it's
Wow.
it's like it's a
Yeah.
lot. Yeah.
Wait, so you got an assistantship
Assistantship.
so
Penn
that
State.
was at Penn State. So what did that consist of?
So that consisted of, besides just going for master's program, doing all your master's classes and programs.
Right.
You also are, I don't know if hired's the right word, but part of. I didn't pay to go to school; they paid me.
Gotcha.
So part of your payment, or all of your payment, is to teach.
Right.
So I
you-
conducted a percussion ensemble.
Okay.
I had 20, I'll tell you something tricky about my situation too. I had 20 or so, 25 students a week in mostly drum set or classical. And then I also taught percussion pedagogy, percussion methods to the majors.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. The hardest part about my situation is that most of the people that went on and did the assistantship at the universities were classical percussionists.
Right.
So they were just helping. I was studying under Dan Armstrong, wonderful man, wonderful percussion player and teacher and everything. But they would sort of assist him, and he would hand them students. As a drum set player, I got everyone from the school that wasn't
Nice.
involved in the music program, like, guys that were in fraternities or like, I want drum lessons. So on top of the people that I was dealing with classical stuff, I also had like 20 drum set students.
Oh, that's great.
It was probably the two hardest years of my life. It was easily a job for 2 or 3 people. As a matter of fact, my very good friend Steve Hambright, hi Steve, who went to Delaware with me, also got the position with me, and he decided to go to another school, so it was just left for me. But it was.
Wait, how the heck did you do your classes?
It was. I'm telling you, man. I was home every night. I'll tell you a funny story about that. I needed a show to wind down to every night, where I just got home and just passed out, and it was perfect timing because Beavis and Butthead just started, and it was like that was the show I needed to just go home and just drool on myself on the couch, and be like, oh. But it was incredibly difficult. I did a lot of growing up during that period of time.
Oh my God.
A lot. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's a lot to balance.
It was ridiculous.
But you did it. I mean, that's amazing.
it. And it was the perfect balance I needed to be able to play the way I wanted to when I got out and teach as well.
Wow.
Because I'd been teaching since I was like 16, but not at that level. Yeah. Like when it was like, okay, you're getting your master's degree and you have an assistantship, it was like, you are a teacher, you're a professor in the booklet, you got to step it up. And I had to get good really quick at teaching, really quick. So that was a lot of the reason that is sort of behind me now of why I'm doing so much of what I do now. So
I mean, putting together with the drum set thing, were you able to put together your own curriculum?
No, that was a little bit more private study.
Yeah,
there were a couple of majors that did a semester with me because they had to do like a drum set semester, got people that were just doing classical, had to do drum set.
Yeah.
So I did a little bit more of a curriculum with them. We're you should probably learn, some more about jazz and some more about Afro-Cuban and some more about Brazilian. We're not going to just rock out the whole time.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of the private guys, that were just drunk the night before, just I just want to play Pearl Jam, man. I'm like, oh,
right. Let's do it.
Whatever you want.
Nice.
So it was an immense amount of work, and I lost a lot of weight because I was really stressed, but I did it, and I'm really proud because I'm also my birthday is very late in the year. I'm the end of December. So
Well, how far in the end?
December 13th, middle of December.
Oh, okay. My wife is December 31st.
Oh yeah, she's way late. Yeah. But so I had my master's degree by the time I had just a couple months of turning 23.
Wow.
And I was done. No more school.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So it was but I also am a little tormented in that, I hear Tony Royster was gigging when he was 9, and I kind of feel like I still was a little late, but I know that by then I was just I have no more school. That's out of the way. And now I can just concentrate on my professional life.
Right.
So it was a lot to do in a short period of time.
Yeah. I mean, it's an amazing accomplishment.
Thank you.
And you were so young to be finished at that point. So then where does that leave you, leaving school and being sort of done with that at that point?
Yeah.
What was the next step? Did you take a breather, or were you already had a gig lined up? You were boom, done, go.
Yeah. Great question. I wish I did, and I didn't. Well, okay. So my plan was to, my parents were still living at home. My wife, who I was dating at the time, was still living in Philly.
Okay.
And she was a year behind me. So my plan was to
She's from Philly?
Yeah, she's from Philly. Yeah. Huh. Yeah. And hi, honey. I have to say that.
Honey.
But my plan was to just go immediately to New York City and start working.
Okay.
And the beginning of the summer, when I had finished, she said to me, "Listen, I have some news. I got offered to get my master's in photojournalism out in San Francisco." And I was just like, what? What? And she's like, and she said to me, she goes, I remember one time, she kind of said it tongue in cheek, but she said, you're either coming out with me or we're going to break up. And I'm like, I guess I'm moving out to San Francisco with you.
Wow.
Yeah. I had no intentions of doing that at all.
Yeah.
If anything, I would want to go to LA, San Francisco. So we moved to San Francisco and we ended up staying 10 years. And
what?
Yeah, it was it's a long story why we stayed 10 years, but it was definitely a domino type of, this went to that, which went to this, which went to that kind of thing. Yeah. So here I am finding myself in San Francisco going, really? This is where, okay. And she had a 1.5-year program to finish. And I was like, we'll just test the waters to see what it's like. And that's immediately when I started hooking up with the studio and became first call at this studio that was doing all the commercial work and the movie work and stuff.
Oh,
and
cool.
that's how the Spongebob thing came and all that sort of stuff. Yeah.
Nice. So San Francisco. So where were you guys living? Was it sort of, could you have a drum set there? I mean, no, right?
Well, yes and no, it's sort of. I kind of sort of could have, but it ended up not working out that way. But the first year and a half, we were downtown, studio apartment.
Okay.
Then we moved to San Bruno, which was by the airport, and we lived in 2 separate houses. And I kind of sort of put up a little kit in the houses, did a little recording. But I also was teaching at 2 stores, Drum World of San Francisco and Haight-Ashbury Music, the whole time I was there.
Okay.
So I took advantage of like, you know, breaks between students practicing, you know, that kind of thing. And
so did you land the teaching gigs like pretty quick once you got to San Francisco? Okay.
Yeah. I was, it's funny. My dad growing up was always like, I was a big sports guy growing up and as short as I am, but he was always like, look, you're not aggressive enough. You got to go after the ball. You can't just stand around and wait. And something happened with music where I totally changed that. Where even today, I'm just like, you know, if I'm going to watch a sports game, I'm like lazing on the couch. Like, but when it comes to work, I'm a lot more, you know, like I got to get something, you know. So I actually contacted all of these places that summer before I moved out.
Oh, okay.
And they were like, look, sounds great. You have an awesome resume. You know, I sent them some videos, or at the time, it wasn't like what we have now.
Yeah.
Or some audio. And they're like, yeah, it sounds great, but you're not here. You can't do anything.
Right.
And then as soon as I got out there, I hooked up with my very good friend, Steve Laporta. Hey, Steve. Who worked at Drum World. And he's like, oh, yeah, I remember you contacting me. And check this out. He goes, how many students do you have? I go, I just moved into town. He goes, if you get a couple students, we'll get you in here to teach for a day. A couple months later, I come back with 4 students. He's like, great. He's like, can you start on Monday? I said, yes. He goes, all right, you'll be across from the hall from Tony Williams and next to Dave Garibaldi.
Wow.
I'm like, what? That weekend, Tony Williams died.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. That was the weekend Tony Williams died. So it was a real weird situation where I'm like, oh, my God, this is so odd. But yeah, so I ended up, I didn't do any college work, nothing yet. But I did a lot of just, you know, freelance teaching and then the 2 stores. And Drum World was a huge store at the time. You know, everybody came through there to do clinics. I met so many people, I met a lot of my company guys through there. Joe Testa was the first person I met through there. Yeah.
Joe Testa.
Joey! I miss him. I don't speak to him enough. So that kind of really set, I mean, San Francisco basically, I mean, we could be here all day talking about what happened in San Francisco, but that was like really like the foundation of everything that happened for when I got to New York.
Did you get to know Garibaldi while you were?
Yes, very well.
Yeah.
And he's just great. I mean, he's such a lovely guy. And we taught together for a couple of years, and then he kind of stopped working at Tower, started to really kind of come back again.
Yeah.
And then I started to kind of do more playing out, and you know, we sort of went like this, but we're in touch now, and he's just great.
He's such a great guy.
Such a great guy. You know, and just, you know, such a huge influence. I mean, you know, his teaching style and his playing style and the way he creates grooves is just like the first place I go. Like,
yeah.
That's how I want to write. You know?
People, check out DG's notebook.
Yes.
So great.
Great. Yeah. Amazing.
I'd be holding it up, but he's not my guest today, so I have it it's in the shelf. But it's over there on the shelf. Make sure you have it. I have it in digital and I have it in print because you need both. So make sure you get all the digital books and all the print books, because then you could share them with your online students. You can bring up the digital. And if you have your in-person students, you have your paper books, which I'm such a book nerd. I love books.
Yeah. And I'm a print nerd. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, me too.
Pencil to paper.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Cool, man.
Yeah.
So that's a great beginning to it. Not what you thought, because you thought you were going to be in New York. So you spent 10 years in San Francisco.
Well, one of the reasons I stayed also is I ended up getting signed to a band called Migs. They were a pop rock band, and I had spent so many years, much like you, working on the complexities of my playing, you know, in sort of conservatory-esque type places. And not that I wanted to dumb anything down, because that wasn't what it was, but I finally found this band, and the leader, the guy that named the band, Don Miggs, who was an amazing singer-songwriter. And I'm like, you know what? I love his stuff. We have that opportunity to kind of cross over to all these different markets. I was playing in a bunch of different groups at the time. I was playing in a swing band called the New Morty Show, which was really well known at the time. I was playing in 2 different Latin bands. I was playing in a Brazilian samba band. I was playing in this progressive metal band. I was doing all that stuff, but this was like, okay, this is the avenue that I think is going to break through.
Yeah.
And it kind of came relatively early in the time of me being there. It was maybe like 3.5 to 4 years into me being there. So I spent 6 to 7 years with them.
Wow.
And it was one of those things where like we had the opportunity at one point. We had an application into an apartment in LA at one point, and I was working more and more down in LA and doing some sessions and things like that. But I was like, I just see opportunity here, you know. And we were kind of running. Sort of not. We weren't really with them, but with the management of the guys from Train, because they were from the Bay Area, and it took them 10 years to like really explode. And I'm like, we're just going to need some time with this. Yeah. So it just took time, and then at the end, it was one of those things where it just didn't work out. And it was an incredible heartbreak. Yeah. But during that time, it allowed me to write the book, do all the session stuff, all that stuff.
During the time that you were with that band, you were doing those sessions.
Yes.
You said that you kind of became sort of first call for that studio, right? Mm-hmm. So the SpongeBob thing was with that studio.
Yes.
And other commercial work,
Yes.
right? So how did that happen?
Yep.
What was the call? How did you get the gig? What was that?
So funny and long story. And I'll try to keep it condensed because I know people are probably like, this guy's boring. But no. So the aggressive thing I was talking about before, right?
Yeah.
I had a little bit of an emotional issue when I first moved there, where I just didn't really know how to get started. I didn't really know what to do. I was still very young, and again, with my parents not being in the music industry, I just knew nobody. I didn't know where to start.
What do you do?
What I would do. And I also wasn't in the most musical city. San Francisco doesn't have the business there.
Yeah.
They're very musical. There's a lot of music things. But the business of music in San Francisco was, late 60s, early 70s.
Right.
Then going into 80s with Journey and that kind of thing. But at that time, in the mid-90s, it's just...
Yeah.
Guys
were
like
coming
the
Bay Area was not like the happening thing
we were meeting record guys. They're like, we don't work on the weekends. We're here on vacation. We go back to L.A., God. So I remember my wife throwing me the phone book at one point, and she goes, bam, she throws it on my lap. And thank God she did this. She goes, I don't care what you do. Make calls.
What's a phone book?
Yeah, right. Do you guys remember what a phone book is? Yellow pages, real thick.
What does it look like?
And she goes, I don't care who you call, make calls. I'm like, all right. So between that, and then there was this other book in the Bay Area called The Real Book. Not The Real Book, but the REEL. Like a real, like.
Yeah.
And it listed like every studio, every lighting company, every management, all that kind of stuff. And I finally had a plan. I'm like, okay, I got a plan. Okay, I didn't know what to do before. I got a plan now. I opened up the yellow pages to every studio, and the Real Book to all the management and studios. And I took a notebook, and I still have it. And I put it in my car, and I started writing down all these places, right? And I literally got in my car and knocked on every single door. Everyone. And some of them were garages. And a guy like in his bathrobe, like, what are you doing here? That kind of thing.
What are you doing?
And some were just not, like, they were listed studios, but maybe they were like a little bit more corporate, or like stuff behind the scenes kind of thing that wasn't really walk-in studio kind of, And then one was called Hank Smith Music. And I walked in, and they had a lobby, and they had a receptionist, and they had 2 rooms. And I went, oh, this is more of what I think I wanted. And I met them, and I noticed that if you're on the do you know San Francisco?
No.
Okay.
Not really.
There's a road that goes around the northern part of San Francisco called the Embarcadero, along all the ports. And I noticed that, the piers, excuse me, and I noticed that they are situated in a square around all brick buildings that were advertisement agencies. And during the day, this is when they had DAT tapes and all that kind of stuff. People would be literally running DAT tapes into the studio and out. So at the time when I finally got going, I'd be in there for a session, and they'd be like, can you hold on a second? We also got a Coke commercial. Can you stay for that? I'm like, yeah. It was like that kind of vibe,
Wow.
So I walked in there, and they said, I remember Blaze, the owner, who was a still very good friend of mine, hey, Blaze, said, we need a guy like you. We need a guy who could come in and do this kind of stuff. And he gave me the best compliment that I ever got. He said, after I started working for them, he said, we have had guys that cut spots, well, but no one does them as well and as fast as you do. Because the time is money thing in a studio. Yeah. And I'd be like, all right, just play the session. And they play it. And if they didn't have music, I'd just chart it out. It would take me longer to do drum tones than it would to do the take.
Right.
And they really appreciated that. And I'm not saying this to puff my anything. I'm saying it as a sort of a learning lesson for music, that people need that because of because they had all these, like when I was done, they were on to a new session.
Yeah.
So make a long story short, I got a call from them, and being on the West Coast at the time was tricky because I was always trying to tell people, hey, I did this thing, but it was always commercial. You can't predict when commercials come on. I did the Suzuki car commercial. Well, they're not going to know when that happened, So he goes, it's a spot, it's a pilot, it's a 6-episode pilot for Nickelodeon. So the first thing that went in my head was, oh, cool, now I could start telling people when I'm on TV each day.
Yeah.
10 a.m. on Saturdays, it will be on. Okay, what's it called? Well, we'll show you when we get down here. I'm like, okay. So I told my wife, I'm like, it's for Nickelodeon, cool, finally tell. So we go into the studio, and it's me and the accordion player. Right? Nice. And it's this old man. And we're standing in front of the TV, and they had already cut the theme song spot. And it was just a bass line and a click track at the time. And we see this sponge exploding. And we look at each other, and we're like, what the hell are we watching? What is going on? Spongebob Squarepants. Like, what? And at the time, there was a MIDI drum track just going, like almost like a polka.
Yeah.
I was like, hey, that would be cool if I did more of like a train thing. Yeah. And then they started showing me some of the and I was watching some of the animation. So when you start hearing who lives in the pineapple, SpongeBob SquarePants, stuff like that, that was me watching the animation, hitting some of the breaks and the roll and stuff that's in there. So I helped sort of design the right drum part for it too, So anyway, we cut this track. And again, I'm thinking, okay, cool, it's a pilot.
Not charted?
Not charted.
Yeah, so you basically on the spot.
Yeah. Matter of fact, if you watch the theme song and it goes, SpongeBob SquarePants, and it stops, it went on for another minute.
Oh, okay.
Because they thought credits were going to roll.
Oh,
or they thought they would take that part of the song and put them at the end or something, right?
Yeah.
And I remember watching it on TV, and I turned to my wife, and I went, that was fast. It was done, So again, all that was in my mind at the time was, this is going to be on for 6 weeks. I could tell people, when it's going to be on. We also did a second cartoon called Prickles the Cactus, and they were going to run back to each other. Prickles eventually went on the Cartoon Network, and it failed. It only did 1 or 2 episodes. I've seen it. It's like on YouTube still, but whatever. So goes on, becomes really popular, and then it gets bought out for the rest of the season. I think it was the rest of the season, or maybe like another 6 episodes or something like that, right? And I've told this story a million times, but my wife and I are at a water park, and we're sitting in front of that long slide that people go down, right? We have towels on us, and I keep turning around like this, like over and over again. She finally turns to me and she goes, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "I know you think I'm crazy, but I hear my cymbals. Like, I hear something I would do. I hear the sound of my cymbals and something I do." She's like, "What does that even mean?" I'm like, "Stay here." So I grab my towel, and I get up, and I start kind of just going around the park. And I finally come around this corner, and one of the amusement rides is blasting the SpongeBob song.
Oh, my God. That's amazing.
Like blasting it, right? Now, I'd seen it on TV, but I hadn't heard anybody who really knew it, right? So they're blasting that theme song, and they also have a bunch of merchandise hanging up. Towels, all this kind of, and then I just said to myself, like, oh, like this is getting big. And within a couple of weeks, she bought me a CD called SpongeBob's Highlights, and it was the biggest selling kids cartoon in the world.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And I was like, wow. But then there's a whole other story of the music business side of it.
Yeah.
I don't even know if we have time for that. I could make it short, but that's where it went from there, basically.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, question.
Yeah.
So, did you do these sessions for anything on the back end, or were you just getting paid upfront money?
Okay. So that's the music business part.
Yeah.
Okay. So 2 parts to that. Part 1, it was a buyout. Okay. And I did enough sessions by then to know if you do a union, you'll get paid every 13 weeks. And those who have done sessions might know, as a musician, even if you get a buyout, each check gets a little smaller and smaller until you get like 20 cents in the mail. You're like, I've actually done some buyouts that have worked in my my benefit, where you do like a campaign buyout, and then they only use one of the commercials that you cut, but they pay you for the whole campaign. You know what I mean? So you get like, you're like, oh, I made out better on this. I'm not seeing it on TV anymore. I did a Polaroid thing that was supposed to be on every Christmas, and then throughout the year, like different versions of it was a Joy to the World, like a punk version of Joy to the World, went on for like 10 weeks and was gone.
Wow.
But I got paid for the whole thing. So SpongeBob, I knew it was a buyout, so I did not get much money at all. I got paid twice. Once for the session, and once when they rebought it after it became the pilot.
Got it.
Okay, which was not much money at all, and I won't quote it now, but that's all I made.
Yeah.
Okay.
Got it.
Part 2. This is the business, part of it. 3 years later, there's a commercial for the first SpongeBob movie on TV, and I'm looking at that and I'm going, okay, well that theme song is different and it's not us. So I called up the studio, and Blaze said to me, when was the last time you saw SpongeBob on TV? I said, this morning. I just happened to see it, but I happen to see this commercial now. He goes, did it sound? Oh, no. He goes, no. He goes, I'm going to make a couple calls. Let me get back to you. So he calls BMI, and then he gets it back to me, and he goes, when was the last time you saw on TV? And I said, this morning. He goes, are you sure that what you're hearing is us? And I said, absolutely. It's the exact same thing. Are you sure? I said, yeah. He goes, who's doing the theme song now? I said, I think it's Avril Lavigne. Which I wonder if Rodney was on that too, which would be hilarious. I got to talk to him about it. And he goes, okay, this is really weird. And I said, what? He goes, you know that like MTV and Nickelodeon, they're owned by Viacom. It's like a big umbrella company, right? He goes, apparently Viacom has 2 versions of the theme song listed. The original one we did, and a second one that I have no idea what they did to it. They could have remixed it, they did whatever. They're using that everywhere, all over the world, anything. He goes, I wasn't even notified, and I wrote the theme song.
Whoa.
And I said, isn't that illegal? He goes, yeah, but I'm a little studio this big. Am I going to fight Viacom?
Right.
And so that's how that worked. That was like one of those musician stories.
Yeah.
So every time I hear it, it's one of those bittersweet things where I know it's my calling card. I could tell anybody it's wonderful. It's a wonderful memory. And I love every bit of it except that one part.
Yeah.
It's like that carrot that's right there.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So
well,
things could be worse. I could have not done it. So
that's right. And you do hear so many stories about people not getting what was due to, especially you think about that guy wrote the theme song, and then they're finding other ways to channel it.
Yep. Yeah.
Oh man.
He in fairness, it was a buyout for them too.
Yeah.
So there would most likely be a sort of a similar situation, but it would have been nice to even have the ability to renegotiate, to say, hey, listen, we'll let you use this any way you want, do whatever you want, but we need a little bit of some points, something, right? Nothing. And it's hard when it's something that's that big where you hear it all if you turn on the TV, SpongeBob is on especially if you have cable TV, Fios or something, it's on like a million different channels all day long. Yeah. And if I had a piece of that, just a little piece of that, my family would be set.
Yeah.
But, you can't really look at it that way. It's not, I was just a player and that's what the work for hire thing is. And
right.
It's just that really, really tiny thin line, So.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Yeah.
Let me just hit the chat real quick. Man. Any questions from any of you maniacs? Oh, Boo's rocking the pizzas.
Always. Tony. Wait. My buddy Tony said always listen to your wife.
Oh, that's so funny. Wait, how far back is that? Let's see.
Okay.
Now
it's further down.
Pizza Diddles. Jim Mola says pizza diddles. Jim, we love you. You're a nice boy from a nice family.
Get me some pizza diddles, Jimmy.
Yeah, I want some. John Gill on drums. Boo is rocking the pizzas. Cool. Joey Pinto saying, hi, Joey, you're late. Why are you late? Facebook user, I miss ya. Facebook user, F you. I mean,
What?
Facebook user. Yeah. What's your middle name, Facebook user?
Ralph.
Jim Royal, what's up, buddy? Gents. How you doing, Jim? Good to see you in here. Let's see. I know that this is somebody you know.
Wait,
see
yeah,
that?
who is Facebook user? Because
So you have to identify yourself. Whoever's
yeah.
thing is coming up, Facebook user, I'm sure we know you. It says, I miss you. Then it says, oh, not boring.
Jay, which is my nickname, so you gotta know who you are.
Lesson learned, always listen to your wife. That's brilliant.
Oh, yeah.
Excellent. I believe that performance rights royalties pay for...
You know, things have changed a lot. You know, I mean, also this was, remember, 20 years ago?
Right.
So things have really changed, you know, in the business. And you know, I mean, Christ, those gigs don't even exist anymore, really.
I was going to say,
Yeah.
I mean, that's
I got the last
pretty
kind of
unheard
run
of.
it.
Yeah. At
yeah.
this point.
So,
Unless you're doing voiceover work or, you know, it's like
yeah.
a lot of this stuff is being cut, you know, just MIDI program drum parts.
Yeah.
You know, it's not the same.
You know, it's funny. I did a La Choy Chinese food commercial during that time, and they had us stand at a microphone going, "Aw, yeah!" And I got a AFTRA. Was it AFTRA or SAG? AFTRA. I got an AFTRA contract, and
Nice.
and I got paid more on those checks just from going yeah than I did in almost the combination of every drum track that I did
Wow.
musically, because the voiceover level is so much higher, and then SAG, of course, is even higher than that.
Yeah.
So if you're acting and you can get a real good settlement, I mean, you're set for years. Versus voiceovers here, and the musicians are. I mean,
Right.
You know, there's some checks I was like, I almost threw out because it was just embarrassing.
Yeah.
You know.
SAG after rocks.
Yes, Jim. Totally. Jim knows. I know that Jim knows.
I would say, you know, the other thing, I mean, if it had ever turned into more regular kind of stuff that paid really well was doing TV appearances. But I did one episode on Guiding Light, that soap opera.
Soap opera.
So you get paid as a musician, so as somebody with special talent,
Right.
and you get paid as an extra. So the pay scale is kind of double, and then because you're on camera, and so you know. But that kind of thing, there was only a couple instances of that stuff. But that's one where, you know, at least you have yourself on
Right.
you know, in the show,
Right.
playing music. I was with the Vince Giordano big band playing at the at their wedding scene on Guiding Light. So it's like we're all in tuxedos, and it's the full band, Vince's whole band, and who I was playing with at the time. And so he got this gig to do the wedding scene on this Guiding Light episode. But we basically hung in the green room all day, went out for a shot, went back, hung in the green room, got called like 2 hours later,
Yeah.
do another shot, go back to the green room. But the pay was very nice. But Vince did a lot of the movie kind of stuff,
Yeah.
doing the revival music and everything. So
Yeah.
Jake's-
As we get to it, I'll tell you a little bit about my TV stuff because I had similar kind of stories with that too.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Cool.
Yeah.
So Bobby A reference. Nice. Cool. All right. So if you guys have any questions, definitely chime in. We're going to get back to it. Remember, look what I have here.
He's so good.
The Drummer's Bible.
You got to be my manager.
This
You're
thing,
good at
man.
promo, dude.
This is my copy.
Oh, it is. Look, I signed it for you and everything.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. That means no one could touch that.
Look at this. I'm going to sell it on eBay.
My horrible handwriting.
Oh, you got to see mine. My chicken scratch is very hard to
God.
decipher. Oh, this is nice, man.
Oh, dude. It's my
Beautiful.
pleasure. My pleasure.
How to play every drum style from Afro-Cuban to Zydeco, A to Z, baby.
You figured it out.
I'm a genius. So
Yes.
when
Yes.
in this crazy story did you
Yes.
finally, like, so you're doing all this stuff?
Right.
The band that you were playing with,
Right.
Didn't look like that was going to work out.
Right.
When did the New York trek happen?
Excellent question, as you are an amazing interviewer.
Thank you, darling.
You're welcome, sweetheart. So my wife announced that she had a little bun in the oven. Hopefully, it was not your kid. It was mine.
Oh,
She's like, even in utero, it looks like Jim. And she was working. She had a wonderful job for CNET at the time. She was the director of photography. She got a great job really young. The band.
she's a graphic artist?
She's a photographer, graphic artist.
Wow. Okay,
Really
cool.
e-commerce photography, that kind of thing. And she says, I got the permission, if we want it, to transfer jobs to New York City.
Wow.
And we had this window that was like kind of going like this, and this other one that was kind of going like this, and we just went and jumped right through it.
Did it.
And really, that was the move. That was everything. It changed everything because I wanted to be home. I wanted to be out of California. Those last couple years were very, very tough on me because there was a lot of emotion involved in what was going on with the band. And, you know, if you're not the honey of a record company, or even if you are, you know, the way that you get treated is so demeaning, you know, and you're like, what am I even doing this for? You know, and it's nothing's about music. We did a showcase for a record company one time, and they came to the Roxy. It was Columbia Records, and he left after one song, and the guy at the front door was my friend, and he goes, what, you don't like it? He goes, the singer looks too much like Dennis Quaid, and leaves. And that was the reason. That was 6 years of study for me.
Oh, my God.
That was it. He just didn't look like it that my singer looked like Dennis Quaid. Yep. So it was like, it's just total. So that was dying out. And the studio thing also, you know, I caught the last real wave of it in that late 90s, early 2000s.
Right.
And that's when all the MIDI, not even MIDI, but like all the, you know, people, it was funny. I was starting to hear about like the one guy in his house doing everything on his keyboard. But this was back in like 99.
Right.
When you're like, how is that even possible? Now, you know, we're all doing it, you know.
Exactly.
And I was like, look, the studio thing's not working out. I want to be back home. Band's, you know, broken up. And
your family was back east.
Yes, everybody was back east.
Jody's family's back east.
Jody's family's back east. They were still in Philly. And my daughter was born, and she was a month old. And
so she was born in San Francisco.
In San Francisco. And she was a month old, and we got permission, and we're like, we're getting on a plane in a month. And we moved in a month. That was the planning. It was like a month gone.
Done.
And everything took off from there. I studied at the Collective when I was 92, and I cold called them. And I went into Tony Mangiolino, who's one of my best friends now. I don't.
Tony.
And you know, I can tell he's like, what is this guy doing here? And I showed him the drummer's Bible, and he's like, oh, you're really serious. I'm like, dude, I am not playing with you. I am very serious. You can have a copy of my book. I studied here. I've met John Castellano. We knew each other. And it just so happened that my friend Sandy Gennaro, who was doing the rock program, was going out on tour. And John's like, we need somebody to sub anyway. Could you maybe just do this round and see how it goes? And it was like, boom. From there, it was just perfect timing on my part.
Who was Sandy heading out with at the time? Do you remember?
I think it was still Pat Travers. I think it was Pat. I'm pretty sure.
Who did you study with when you were there in 92? 91?
I was really, really lucky. I had a lot of good people that were there. So it was a lot of the guys that I ended up teaching with. So Sandy was still there. Fred Klatz, who ended up, you know, being there the whole time I was there. Frank Katz, who just passed away.
Frank just passed.
Which
Rest
I'm
in peace, Frank.
So heartbroken about. Oh, my God. Kim Plainfield also passed.
Also gone. I studied with Kim in 91, 92.
Yep, I was in 92. Bobby Sanabria, who was awesome.
Yeah.
And Pete Zeldman, who was like my hero with the polyrhythms. You know, he got all that going. But literally the summer that I was there was the summer that Horacio came from Cuba. So I got to, that's where all my left foot clave stuff came from. I was like, I want to do that.
Yeah. And
I was getting really big into Afro-Cuban in college. So I had a lot of like the Weckel stuff down from my wonderful teacher, Tom Palmer, in college. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh, but you can do all that left foot over the top of the stuff that I'm doing. And, you know, Horacio was teaching this. I'm like, oh my God. So that was it was a really good, and Clayton Cameron was there too. So it was a really, really good, solid period
Clayton's
of time.
brush stuff, man. Oh my God.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Mike, of course.
Mike.
I was really lucky because I took a lesson with like all of them.
Yeah.
I didn't have a steady teacher. So
I studied with Marvin briefly. Did you
he was
take
not
any
there
more?
at the time with me.
When was that?
Probably
Maybe that was like
a little,
94 maybe.
a little later or something like that. But
Maybe,
yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, no. I missed a couple guys, but the guys that were there at the time were just amazing.
Yeah.
And actually, when I went back, Frank remembered me. Fred remembered me. I met Pete Retzlaff on like one of the first days I was there.
Pete.
And then I started meeting all the other guys, Adriano and Ian, and all these guys became family.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I mean, I love all of them so dearly, and the collective's changed a lot, and it's hard to kind of see how that has moved on. You know, but Marko Djordjevic and
Marco, man.
yeah, Tobias.
Love Marco. Tobias is great.
I mean, these are all like, you know, world class players. And, you know, I would just kind of stand around at the school and just look around. And this is when Steve Smith started to come in. I'm like, I can't believe I'm a part of this every day.
Right.
It's so amazing, you know? So I'm there. This is my 16th year. So.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
That's how fast time flies.
yeah, exactly.
My daughter's driving.
I know. That was a discussion that we had today, right? I was like, wait a minute, wasn't she just 9 years old?
Yep.
Oh, my God. Well, you met my daughter, Nikki.
I know.
Who's 24.
Such a beautiful family, man. It's amazing.
It's like
amazing.
The time, man. Holy moly.
Yeah.
It's just unbelievable.
So the collective was cool because it basically brought everything else in that I was doing. You know, like through the collective, Tony's roommate was Chris Altenhoff, who was the bass player in Trans-Siberian Orchestra, and that's how I got the job through them.
Nice.
Yeah, and then all the guys that were working with TSO were starting to play on Rock of Ages. So that's how I contacted John Weber and started working Rock of Ages. And then that was Broadway.
Yeah, yeah.
And then has spun out. So everything's kind of, you know.
Yeah. And so with the Rock of Ages thing, so that was and is or an ongoing subbing gig, right?
Yeah. So John Weber has been the main guy forever.
Forever.
One of the most incredible guys I've ever met. Just like sweetest guy on the planet. And at the time it was just the Broadway thing.
Right.
But then the tour started to take off. And then there was a guy on tour named Bones who had decided to go with another band, I think. And then he just sort of stopped playing Rock of Ages and the band for a while. And I took over on the tour. Right. And then I did international. I went to Singapore for a month. And we did Canada. And we did all these other areas and everything. And then the tour company and the Broadway company split apart. Like they had like a fight. Like a like they didn't talk to each other. And right at the time that the tour said, we're not going to do any more touring, the Broadway company said, we're going to pull it off of Broadway. So both of them at the same time, but separately, went away.
Wow.
Yeah, I was like, how did that happen? You know?
Yeah, yeah.
So then it came back a couple years ago off Broadway, and I was doing subbing with that. And now John, of course, First Call, we do something called the Broadway Rock of Ages Band.
Right.
So it's all the original guys like Joel Hoekstra and Tommy Kessler from Blondie and Winston Roy from Soul Asylum. All these guys that were original. We do fly out and do these fly out shows. Right. And it's just a glorified 80s cover band basically.
Right. But it's based on that music and
it's based
sort
on
of one-offs.
Yeah. It's based on the music. It's not
the story.
It's not the story.
Yeah.
Like so instead of doing the medleys, we do the full songs of Nothing But a Good Time by Poison and Pour Some Sugar on Me and that kind of thing. Cool. So that's a lot of fun. We get a lot of work out of that. So.
Sweet. Yeah, nice.
Yeah, yeah.
And how did the sort of Neal Morse thing happen?
So I don't know how much you listen to Neal, but I started listening to Spock's Beard the first record that came out.
Okay.
One of my friends was like, you have to hear this record. Being a big progressive guy, I'm more progressive rock than I am progressive metal. Right. So I like a lot of progressive metal, but when I heard this, I'm like, that is everything I like, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm like, who is this guy? And it was Neal Morse, and of course Nick DiVirgilio was playing drums, who's a wonderful guy, wonderful friend and everything. And I was like, these guys are amazing. So I started really just following them kind of as a little bit of a fanboy, for a while. And then Neal split and started doing his solo stuff, but in this sort of Christian light, Right. And I was like, well, it's not my thing, But this light bulb went off in my head. I'm like, but wait a minute, Portnoy's on drums.
Right.
Like, how did that happen? And I know Mike's not religious like that. So, what's that connection? So, a couple years into their solo project, Neal has something called the Inner Circle. And on the Inner Circle, he put out this open invitation to send in your stuff to sub for Mike. Well, formulate the whole Neal Morse band. He was going to replace everybody. He was starting over, forming a band. So he was looking for a guitar player, a keyboard player, a bass. Randy on bass, but a bass player was there, and then a sub drummer for Mike.
Okay.
And Mike had just gotten into Adrenaline Mob and Avenged Sevenfold and all that kind of stuff. So it looked like he was going to be doing a lot of that stuff. So I sent my stuff in and I got an audition, and it was actually between me and another guy, and then they ended up picking me.
How did you get the opportunity to send your stuff in? Was that like a public?
Oh, it's a public.
They
thing.
put it out
Yeah,
there publicly,
yeah,
right? So
they put it through his Inner Circle,
right.
But one of my best friends, Scott Bagoon, who's a guitar player down in Florida, was like, "Hey, you might want to check this out." And I saw that.
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
"Oh," and then I sent it in and flew down there for the audition. And
Right.
And the interesting thing, he had already picked the whole band by then. So I was playing with the band. Like, he picked
With
it that
the
weekend,
band.
but it was that band.
Got it.
And Mike wasn't there. He was on the road. So I'm like, all right, I got to play Mike's parts with the band now.
So did you have reference recordings to learn his parts?
Yes.
Right.
Yes, exactly. And then, like a couple weeks later, I found myself in that room again preparing for a tour.
Nice.
And we went to I didn't play with him a lot, but we went to a couple places in the States, and then we went to Finland. I went to Italy with him.
Nice.
Yeah, a couple really heavy-hitting places. Cool.
Yeah, sweet.
Yeah. Tough gig, though, man,
Yeah.
It's just,
Tough gig as far as technically tough
everything,
gig or
everything.
Yeah,
You need to pay respect to what Mike wrote,
right.
Without you're always going to do a little bit of your own thing.
Yeah.
But coming from the Broadway world, I wrote everything out.
Of course.
And I was like,
Yeah.
all right, I'm going to do all this, but right here, I'm just kind of going to do this thing, that sort of thing. And Mike's parts are so wonderful, and and the band is so goddamn good, and you want to do it justice. And it's also one of those type of gigs where it's a high scrutinized gig.
Yeah.
I mean, you're subbing for Mike.
Right. Yeah. So you got to have your shit on point.
Like
The
real.
other thing is this highly formulated, rehearsed, and sort of the same show over and over and over, or is there flexibility in there and improvisation in there, or is it more formulated? Like,
funny you mentioned that.
Yeah.
For my shows, they had to be more structured because, especially like now, Mike is like part of it's a band now.
Yeah.
Right? So they can do anything from their catalog. They can pull from different things. They can do covers. They can do whatever they want.
Yeah.
But me being a sub or being a part-timer like that, it was like, all right, we need to probably just do this set list and be safe with it.
Yeah.
So it was a little more structured.
Yeah.
But I think I've had a total of 3 rehearsals with them.
Okay.
And that is not 12-bar blues.
Right.
That's like, you better have your stuff together because we're going to play a 3-hour progressive rock show.
Exactly.
And it's, so not that I didn't get the fair end of the stick because I'll never play that card, but I didn't really get much time to play with them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Mike is as wonderful as he is in the room when he writes with them, in the room when he rehearses with them.
Yeah.
And I would go down and do a 3-hour rehearsal in Italy.
Yeah.
And then do a show the next day.
Right after.
So it's a scrutinizing, tough gig like that.
So there's a certain degree of preparation that you had to do on your own without that band.
A lot of degree.
Yeah, a lot of degree because it's not like you're playing, like you said, you're not playing a 12-bar blues. You're not just laying down like simple, parts. So you had to really put the time in.
Sure.
But worth it, yeah.
Oh, God. It's just, he is my Paul McCartney.
Gotcha.
He really is. And I would never, I'm not the type of person that's like overly, pushing things. Like I'm not a huge fanboy. I'm not a hey, look, I'm over here. I kind of keep things to myself. So I think they know it, but I'd never be like, dude, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But literally playing with him is like if you played with Paul McCartney.
Yeah.
Because I'm watching him going, oh my God, this is like, I love him so much. I love his songwriting so much. And I love what everyone here is doing.
So even because before you had mentioned like under this umbrella of sort of this Christian-ish thing, it's still really, because musically it's probably...
Oh, it's very progressive.
Great.
It's great.
And it's so like even whatever he's writing lyrically, even if it's leaning towards that slant,
yes,
it's like it doesn't really matter because the music is...
Absolutely.
Is the thing, man.
And it was the music's so good that you don't even mind. It's first of all, most of it's a beautiful message,
right?
And you don't even mind that. There's some songs that are a little overdone where you're just like, all right, I get it, hitting over the head with the hammer sort of thing. But there's other things, like a lot of his stuff now is more spiritual than anything.
Yeah, a
lot more kind of general termed,
right?
Being a better person kind of thing.
Yeah,
and it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Why would I ever argue with that kind of
Absolutely.
stuff?
We need more of that.
We need more of that, especially in this world.
Let's check these chatty people that are not being as chatty.
Jules
is here. See, I knew it. We summoned you.
And yes, we have to go to a Rangers game. And yes, I studied with Michael Lauren too. I have a funny story about Michael Lauren.
Yeah.
Studying with him. Funny story. I'll tell you real quick. It's a real brief story.
Yeah, give it.
So Mike, I love Mike, and he's moved to Portugal since. He's a wonderful teacher. He's one of the best teachers I ever had. And the way he teaches big band is he talks about how when you're reading a chart, you really need to pick from all these different musical senses of, pitch and shorts and longs and stuff like that. Don't do a lot of like playing together. That's more of a modern jazz thing. You gotta sort of have the conversation. So he was telling our class this in 1992. This was when we still had chalkboards, regular chalkboards, right? And I get up and I start playing and basically straight ahead, and I'm reading the whole chart down and everything's good. And he's standing. I got to stand up for this. He's standing in the corner like this, like staring at me with a scowl. That kind. Yeah, like. And he's not moving, and he's looking at me. And I keep looking up every once in a while and doing this kind of thing. And I'm hitting him. I'm doing great. And he's just not moving, right? Somewhere on the second page, I'm like, clunk. And I hit the two things together. And I knew I screwed up. And by the time I looked up toward him, there was a chalkboard eraser flying at my head. And it hit the wall behind me in a cloud of chalk like that. And he's like, I told you not to do that. I'm like, I know, I'm sorry.
Now, every hit after that, you're going to hit together.
Just to do it. Yeah, get more chalk. Yeah.
Oh, my God. Yeah. Oh, that's great.
Yeah, hilarious.
Isn't it amazing, too, like if you're teaching any like middle school or high school jazz student, every single chart has everything in like double and triple stops.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Where it's like, you're like, okay, listen, drummer would never play this ever.
Cross out.
Yeah. This was not written, this chart was not written by a drummer. It's written by an arranger. So just throw everything away.
Yeah. I go through, in every one of my lessons that I start teaching big band, I write out 10 different ways you see time. On a chart. You see it with quarter note and 2 eighth notes. You see a quarter note with a dotted eighth and a 16th.
Dotted 16th.
Yeah, the triplet with the rest in the middle. You see just quarter notes. You see slashes. I'm like, look at all this crap. And I cross it out and just go ding, 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 and read the figures that are there.
Yeah, that's it. Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah, exactly.
It's so true.
Yeah. So, how are we doing on the chart? Chat. Everybody doing? How are we doing on time?
We're doing good. I think, we still have a little ways to go. Good. I still have a few more questions, unless you have a hard stop. Like
No.
Okay.
No, I'm sleeping over tonight too.
I got questions.
Please ask the questions.
So, all right. So, just in the timeline.
Yeah.
Okay, because we did a little bit of dancing.
Yeah, we danced. Yeah.
We danced a little bit. Yeah. So there was, getting the gig at Collective, and we talked about sort of the whole education thing.
Yep.
One thing in the timeline was, when did this happen?
Yeah.
The book.
The book, yeah. So that happened in San Francisco, actually.
Oh, okay.
And it happened I'll tell you a little bit of background on that. So Mick Berry, my co-author, was one of my students.
Okay.
And he's a little bit older, but he's a great drummer, and he's really, really good with research.
Okay.
He's got like a big ear. He has done a lot of things through his career. He's a musician. He's a comedian. He's done a lot of.
Oh, wow.
He's an actor. He does a lot of kind of things. So he knows a lot about a lot of things. And he said to me, you should write a book. And I said, it's funny. I've been thinking about it a lot. And I've noticed that the book came from two things. When I was auditioning for the graduate programs, I had put together a little booklet of how I would teach the styles of drums.
Okay.
Okay, so like if I'm going to teach mambo, the bell player is playing the mambo bell, the percussion player is playing this, this conga player is playing this. This is how you put them together. This is how they make good mambo. This is how modern drum set works, that kind of thing. And that's what actually essentially got me the job. So I said to Mick, it's funny, I have this packet that 5 years ago that I put together, and it's got all these styles in it. And he's like, that's a good place to start. And I also noticed at the time that there were books like Mel Bay's Complete Drummer, right? Which Frank, I'm forgetting his last name, wonderful, wonderful player. And it's a great book. I noticed there were a lot of these sort of like stylistic books that, first of all, had no background to the style.
You mean as far as explaining it, just
history,
yeah,
explaining, like when you look through the book.
Lineage.
Yeah, like there's all,
right,
history behind it and everything like that.
Yeah, there would be notation, but there wouldn't be any kind of background material.
And then on top of it with the notation, especially with the world styles, there was a lot of things like, okay, here's a samba. Okay, here's a left-hand variation. Here's another variation. Here's another variation. Here's another variation. And I'm going, but when does somebody really know that they're playing the right groove or
Right.
they're starting from the ground bass? So what the whole purpose of this book is this: if you have a gun to your head and you're on a gig and you have to play the proper mambo that they're looking for, or a zouk, or a polka,
Right.
whatever, this is what you start with.
Yeah.
And there are 2 or 3 variations that are sensible for if there's percussion playing or if there's,
Right.
you're moving to a different section of the song. But that's the purpose of the book. And I still get people that say, well, it doesn't really teach you how to be a better, but stop. It's not the purpose of the book. The purpose of the book is to come from the foundational point of what you're doing.
And the why.
And the why.
Yeah.
And the explanation. And who created a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
So in 2000, we started writing the book. And we started with an outline. And Mick's friend Chaz from CSAR Press, my publisher, said, if you guys have an idea, send me an idea. We sent them the outline. He's like, let's do it. So what we started to do was we took every individual chapter and we sent it to the people that created the styles. Mike Clark and Dave Garibaldi got the funk chapter.
Nice.
Louis Belson, I was doing some clinics with him at the time, got the jazz chapter. So on and so forth. We spent a whole day with Walfredo Sr. at his house.
Wow.
Whole day. This is what we put in the book. He's like, no, don't use that, use this. That kind of stuff. We got as authentic as we possibly could to do this. And you still have people going, oh, it's not authentic enough, or I would do this a different way. Okay, all right, you're always going to get judgment. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine. But it took 3 years. So it was released in 2003.
Got it.
And then we did the second edition about 4 years ago. And that
Nice.
took about a total of 6 months to a year.
Yeah.
So altogether, it was about 4 years.
In the second edition, did you revisit any of the stuff and kind of to update, or perhaps something where you felt like, oh, we should have went to a different source for that? It was what happened from first edition to second edition?
Couple things. One of the things we know that we got ourselves in a little bit of a bear trap with this book is that it's an encyclopedia and we got to keep updating it.
Yeah.
Right. So the first thing was updating some stuff. Okay, and putting some newer things in the book.
Okay.
We just talked. Mick was visiting the other day from San Francisco, and we were talking about 2 weeks ago, and he's like, I think we're going to have to do this again soon. I'm like, please, just no, not yet. And by the way, I'm working on a new book we'll talk about in a second. And I'm like,
Okay.
we gotta hold off on this because and then we tweaked a lot of stuff. Between the time of when it was released in 2003 and then the time that I did the second edition, I had been at the Drummers Collective for about 8 to 10 years. And I'm like,
Right.
I don't use that groove anymore. We should change it to this.
Oh, cool.
You know what I mean? We should turn this around. You know, maybe the bossa should start on the other side, or, you know, things like that, little tweaks. So I'm not saying it's totally different, but it's quite a bit different. And we added about 100 pages to it.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was about 100 and
so
it was about
growing.
160 before, and it's like
Nice.
210, 220. Yeah. So yeah.
Who was your source for Zydeco stuff?
God, I have to go back and remember. Was it Roger? Oh, it was Johnny Vodakovich was one of them.
Okay. I was wondering.
Yeah. We might have even got in touch with Herman Riley, too.
Really?
I think it was Johnny. Mick is from New Orleans.
Oh, okay.
So he was able to go there and make a couple trips and then get in touch with Johnny.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah. So it's as authentic as you can get it.
Yeah,
Without
and
it
look,
being.
There's
you know,
always going to be somebody that, you know, that's going to say something about a particular thing, but it can have everything, or when would the book ever end? So, you know, it's an incredible resource if you think of the amount of work that went into it, the amount of material, and then the fact that you guys took the time to research and really get authentic and to give the background and kind of giving a when, why, and where kind of thing, you know, which is, I think is, from a curriculum standpoint, makes it super, super important.
And we had to, I'm sorry to interrupt you. This was before Wikipedia. We had to go to the library.
Right.
You know, we had to read books. We had to talk to Alfredo Reyes Sr. and say, you're one of the first people that came over and did this stuff. Talk us through what happened when you came over, when Changuito came over.
Yeah.
Tell us these things. You know,
Nice.
so yeah, it was like a whole schooling thing for us too. And there's plenty of stuff in the book now where somebody says something to me, I'm like, I'm going to go check the book. I don't remember.
Wow, that's so funny.
There's just a lot in there, you know? So
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Very cool. And as far as, talk me through what's going on back here with the discs.
So it's a 2 CD set. Remember those guys? CDs?
Remember CDs, people?
Yeah. So the way we recorded that is that in majority of the styles here, you'll see like funk rock and it'll say example.
Right.
All the examples
Are recorded.
are recorded.
Cool.
Some variations are recorded, not all.
Right, yeah.
So there's 192 tracks or something like that.
Yeah.
They're done with click and without. So you'll hear a groove. It'll say like mambo pattern number 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, and it'll be with click and maybe some percussion. And then it'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, and then nothing. And then it's just the drum pattern. So you can hear, because, you know, some of the African stuff sounds different with a click than it does without.
Yeah.
You know, so you want them to get that in their ear. So we set our recordings in 4 different sessions. We did a jazz recording where we did an old school jazz New Orleans type of thing where we opened up a 22-inch bass drum, tuned the snare drum way down, and did that old, you know, parade type sound and the big bandy stuff. The next one, we brought in an 18-inch kick, and we did all the small band stuff. The next one, we did same kit, but tuned everything up for hip hop and drum and bass. And then the last one we did for all modern stuff was just the normal tuning, you know, that kind of thing.
Wow.
So as you hear it, you know, these are a little outdated now. They still sound great, but I'd probably do a couple different things. But if you hear it now, you'll hear it going from track to track with different tuning.
Nice.
So, yeah.
So funny, man, like hearing, you know, when talking about the recording process. I was talking about this with Jim Riley too. Like recording day after day, you know, like however many days you did your sessions.
Right.
All the count-ins. So like me and Jim were laughing about how many times we had to go 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then like, so for my book, there's like 300 and something audio recordings, but there's 700 fills. So I'm not going to put every single fill. I can't do it.
Same thing, yeah.
So, you know, some pages more fills than others, some pages just a couple.
Sure.
But it's like all of that whole process of like counting everything out. And it's the same thing. I mean, well, it's digital now, so it's like all embedded in the book, which is great. You just hit the headphone and it plays the track, which I love. But I even feel like now it's only a few years, you know, since I recorded all that stuff, I feel like there needs to be some updates, and I'll probably do that at some point. It's you know, it's hard to put it down. It's like I want to keep improving it, you know, and I feel like there'll be an addition also later.
Yeah, I'm getting used to that because I'm doing mine through Hudson as well, new one, and I'm getting used to that Rob saying, okay, we're going to do a digital, and you're going to do digital sound bites for it, and this, that, and the other thing. And I'm going to do some print too, but that a lot of it's going to be digital. And I'm still like only the first quarter of the way through because there's so much material.
Yeah.
But when I get it done, I realize, okay, I'm going to do all this hard, crazy crap, and then I got to record it. Like, oh,
yes.
God.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
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 I it's like my hand technique thing. I'm going to record that and do videos of everything and record all of the examples.
Right.
And it's like I've been putting off starting, but
too.
once I get into it, it's going to roll. I'm just going to do it. But it's like you think about the amount of work that goes into it.
I know.
I mean, luckily I'm in a production-ish studio where I can do all this stuff.
You can do it. You can do this too.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So wait, so you mentioned
Yes.
new book.
Yes.
So is this drafted? Is it still in notebooks and or is it at a first draft kind of version? Where are we at?
Very excited about this, by the way. Very
Yes.
excited. So many years ago, before I moved to New York, I started putting together my polyrhythm clinic,
Cool.
polymetric and polyrhythm clinic, breaking it down into different topics, and then it spun into a 10-week every semester program at the collective,
Right.
like an elective semester, and each week we do a different topic. But this stuff's so hard. I mean, it doesn't take 10 weeks.
Did you ever have my student Fred Voss? Freddie?
Yes.
You had Freddie?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if he took my class, but he studied at the collective. I love Fred. He was great.
Freddie was a great,
funny dude, man.
Yeah, he's funny, man.
Yeah. Oh, how's he doing?
He's good.
Yeah.
He works for Con Ed now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But
Please tell him I
he's
said
still,
hi.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's still playing. He had a metal band going on.
Yep. He always
Yeah,
wear
yeah.
the bandana.
Yeah. He's a
Yeah.
great guy.
I love Fred. Yeah.
Yeah,
Tell
he
him I
came
said
to me
hello.
in 2009. He started taking lessons.
Yep. And then he came to the collective in 11 or something like that for 2 years.
Yeah.
Yep. So I started to really categorize this stuff. Like this week we'll do, accents in 3 over the top of, all this kind of stuff. And then this is accents in 5. And then this is 4-way independence and how to add your left foot and right hand in 5 and left foot in 5. And then this is 7 or so, crazy, and then third level stuff where you're doing 5 over here and 7 over here and 4, whatever, just ridiculous, stupid crap. And then there ended up being more topics than just 10, of course, So people over the years have been over and over and over saying you need to write a book. And one was same thing as you, is like the thought of getting started on it was like, oh my God, how am I going to do this? And then the other thing was, especially when the collective was really, really active and we were really at the apex of the amount of students were coming in, I didn't want to write a book then. I wanted people to study with me.
Right.
I wanted people to come from the different countries and do it in person and not get it anywhere else.
Yeah.
Now that the business has changed a lot, I was like, you know what? I'm not getting any younger. I should probably start to put this down. So I spoke to Rob at Hudson, Rob and Joe Bergamini. Hi, guys. 2 of my very close friends and 2 also
Joe B.
some of the most wonderful people in the world.
Oh my God. The best.
Sent them, an outline, and they were like, yeah, definitely let's do it. And then Terry Brownham is who is another great, unbelievable guy. Does awesome work. He's editing.
His work is so incredible.
So good. And I'm through the first chapter and a half, which a lot of stuff is in the first 2 chapters. Like it probably kind of a lot of this, I'm probably going to end up not making those 2 chapters, probably making different chapters out of those. You know what I mean? Because there's just so much in there. It's coming out great so far, but it's a very long process.
Yeah.
I'm doing everything myself.
You're engraving.
I'm engraving. I'm doing. He's the one doing the actual book layout.
You're not doing layout, but you're doing all the finale work.
Stuff.
Yeah,
all that stuff. And I didn't do the stuff in this one.
Right.
I actually did this on Quark Express, believe it or not.
Quark. Oh my God.
And I felt a little helpless in that there was stuff I would have done differently. There's even stuff I look at now. I go, oh, we need to fix that. You know. Now I know. I'm like, okay, that's being done. But there is so much work and so much technical stuff that I'm starting to get a little foggy when I do it. So like I've had a couple nights where I work on it for an hour and I'm shaking my head and I'm like, is that am I counting? Is that 7 accents? Is that 7, 8? You know, like I have to kind of walk away from it because I get really foggy.
Yeah.
So I'm waiting on the newest edit right now from Terry. We're doing it section by section. It's not laid out in full. I have to do it section by section or I feel like it's going to get away from me.
Yeah.
Because the material is so difficult. But it's neat seeing it come to light.
Yeah.
Where after 20 years of doing this stuff, I'm like, okay, it's going to be done. Maybe not soon, but it's going to be done.
You know, it's like I think people, you know, don't realize how much goes into putting together a drum book. Ugh. Especially in this day and age where you're expected to have audio, video, you know, a certain level of proficiency in breaking everything down, you know, and you want that, you know, it's like in my book, I have these little sort of practice segments.
Yeah.
So you do the segments and then you work out the fills, you know, that kind of thing. And then there's an index of every single, you know, little segment in its own little thing so people can mix and match and that kind of stuff. It's like there's so much technical stuff that goes into it. Even just you know, you're playing all this stuff and now you have to like type it into Finale.
Oh, I know.
And it's like, you know, especially when it's super technical and, you know, figuring out how the stuff, you know, lays in there and, you know, polyrhythmic stuff, you're putting in ratios and, you know, all this kind of stuff. It gets really complex to do it. It's not like just, you're just handing it to somebody and they're putting it together.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of sweat equity that goes into the publishing thing.
Sure.
Joe B and I always talk about like, we should do some kind of, you know, publishing sort of seminar or webinar, you know, about like the process.
Oh, God.
Because there's so much in the process, you know.
Yeah. I'm starting to see like there are a variety of ways that I teach this stuff. I'm starting with the polymetric stuff, like the over the bar stuff at first, cross rhythm stuff. And there's a lot of ways where people start to work on like, you know, a 5 over the top of stuff and you start to internalize it. And so in a live situation or in a class situation, I'll be like, okay, here's how the first one works. This is what it looks like. Now, when you start reading down the page, you'll see it's going to almost become an ostinato and internal, right? Well, now I'm having to write everything out. So it's really, the process is getting very long because it has to be really explained. Yeah. You know, and it needs to be like, so like, you know, I just got done with like 7/16 over like the New Breed page or something like that, you know, and it's like, it's taking up like all the space. I'm like, Terry, I'm sorry, can you fit it all on one page? You know? Yeah. So you're definitely like going like this with your head a bunch of times, but you know, it's kind of, I'm chalking it up to like a lifelong kind process that I'm not saying that no one's ever done this because that's not the right way of saying, but it's something I've worked on my whole life and I want to do it. I want to get it done, but it's going to be a while. It's taking time. I feel like, you know, not to give anything away in the you know, the business model, but it's like, I kind of feel like to accompany the book, this book that you're talking about, you should have a course, an online course that can be a subscription model on top of it. Where like, you know, you buy the book, you get all the information, but then in a course setting, you get the deep dive into each thing with like really in-depth teaching. A teaching model. I don't remember if Rob and Joe and I talked about that. There's definitely going to be videos online. Like we're going to do accompanying videos. And that might be enough for me to just play each example a little bit and say, okay, this is how this would work. And I already do the course, you know, at some of the schools that I teach at, the different schools. You know, one of the courses obviously was at the Collective for 10 weeks when we had it. And now the Collective and other resources are talking about doing all this stuff online. So it's already kind of back here a little bit like, you know, but it's just so damn time consuming. And the stuff is so technical that I'm going to have to go back and work on this like fully. You know, isn't it amazing? Like, you know, you write all this stuff and then you're like, oh, now I have to, that's right. Now I have to actually perform it on video for all the examples. And you have to go back to things that maybe
were the basis of a lot of what you do, but you haven't gone and actually played those things in a while.
Yeah.
So it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I've written accompanying songs to
Right.
it, right? And I try to do it in a way that it's not. I've heard a lot of this stuff being written in musically, and it's just not musical.
Yeah,
and I'm
yeah.
trying to make it musical. Like,
Yeah.
there's a melody, there's it's like a chorus and a verse, but it's got a 5 over the top or something like that, And I've had to do stuff that I play at clinics where I'll run through the song like 10 times and still not get it and be like, what did I do to myself?
Wow.
Like, why, why am I doing this part of, this in, like a Virgil thing, and
Yeah,
this
yeah.
in 3 and this in 7 and then my foot in 4. Like, what was I thinking at the
Why
time?
am I making
What am
myself
I
go through this?
Killing myself, But when it comes out good, it comes out great, but it's a lot of work. So,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that's in the works right now. Will be released under Hudson.
Nice.
Yeah, I was hoping to get it done by the new year, but I just don't. Terry's also backed up with tons of stuff.
Yeah.
So like I'm giving him stuff and then I'm waiting for him to come back with the edit. And I don't want to kind of really move on until I see everything in the edit,
He's great, man.
He's
I mean,
wonderful. Yeah.
the work that he did on like Gavin Harrison stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, just his transcribing is just amazing
Yeah.
to begin with, but then he's just so great at everything else that goes with it, the editing and the layout and all that stuff. So
Well,
you're
Terry
in really good hands.
Terry's the kind of guy that like if I give him a concept, I go, do you understand? Like, do you know what I'm doing here? Do you understand it? And he'd be like, yeah. And then he'd give me an edit. I'm like, he totally understands.
Yeah, yeah.
And he even said to me, he's like, I got to sit down and play this stuff. I'm like, that either means to me like, he either doesn't understand or doesn't know how to do it, or like he's so good at doing it, he could do it, he just hasn't practiced it.
Yeah.
And like when I see the edits and come back, I'm like, yeah, everything's there, man.
Because if it's here,
yeah, it'll eventually
be here. I mean,
yeah.
if you put the time in.
Exactly. So so that's kind of new on the docket. That's on the way. So
Nice.
I'm excited for that. Yeah.
I think one of the things that I missed that I wanted to ask you about is the Ultimate Queen.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So where's that at now?
Okay.
And I also want to know, how did you get in that, into that whole thing? And I've seen great clips of you playing, by the way. Awesome.
Thank
really
you, man.
great.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll make this as fast as possible. I know we've been talking a lot, which I love talking, and we can keep
I
doing
love
it.
talking.
Yeah.
Talking is good.
People could just go in and out or
We
whatever.
can just talk.
So, as you know, the business has changed. Hey, look at that. Oh, Sergio.
Sergio, what's
Hey.
up, buddy?
Ciao, mico mio. Yeah.
Nice.
So, oh, thanks, John. Yeah.
Jules said, "Ha," with his camel shorts and Doc
Doc
Martens.
Martens.
That's going back to the.
To Michael
To
Lauren.
Michael Lauren.
Yeah, totally.
That's so funny.
Yeah. Okay, so if you talked to me 20 years ago, and if you brought up to me playing in cover bands,
Right.
let's make me a little more tribute bands.
Tribute bands,
I'd
because
be-
there's a
there's
difference.
a big difference. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd be like, the hell with that. There's no way I'm doing that. But as you know, yeah.
You know that Joe B and I both played in Power Windows,
Yes,
right?
of course.
So the tribute band thing
Yeah.
was like not on my radar.
Yeah.
But Dan, the keyboard player, and I were like avid Rush fans, and we were like, "There's no like good Rush cover bands around, like tribute bands."
Right.
There really wasn't.
Right.
I mean, it was like, what was the big Zeppelin one?
At the time, it wasn't Get the Let Out. It was the one that played Physical Graffiti.
Physical Graffiti, and then there was like, there was a big Pink Floyd one.
Mm-hmm.
I forget what it was, Dark Side of the Moon or something. Who knows? But there was like a bunch of sort of tribute bands. This is like late '80s,
Yeah. Right.
early '90s, right? So, so we were like, Rush, Power
Yeah.
Windows. That's where that whole thing started to come to be, and then I left to go do jazz trios and all this other stuff, and Joe B came in. So we both had that connecting thing, that history. So for you back then, were you thinking like, yeah, I wouldn't want to do tribute bands? Because that's the way I felt, except for the Rush thing.
Well, the very ironic thing is I felt the same way because being from New Jersey, I heard of Power Windows. And I'm like, I got to go see them play.
Oh, that's so
now, I
funny.
never actually went to go see them. And I think by the time I heard of them, it was when Joe was in it. It was
Yeah.
after you had left. But as a diehard Rush fan, that was okay with me.
Yeah.
That was okay. It was a little weird that like, Rush is still touring, but there's a tribute band, But just from a moral standpoint of what I wanted to do with my career, the tribute thing was just not on the radar at all.
Right.
And if you told me 20 years later that I'd be playing, 2 nights ago I played with Royal Scam.
Right, I saw that.
Steely Dan, and I played the Queen stuff, and I played with a Bowie thing, and I do a show with Dan Schinder on Drum Talk TV called The Tribute to the Tributes. Like, I would have been like, what? I would not, like, what? No. But that is the way the industry has gone. And the Queen thing is a little bit separate, but one thing I'll say about the tribute and the role-playing bands now that are more, accurate to the music is that you're finding that it's much more career opportunity oriented now.
Yeah.
Where people are making money and touring the world doing that stuff, hence what I went through. And they're learning more. They're learning how to play like those bands, especially like the Rush and the Metallicas and, the bands that are being attributed to, you're learning to play better because you're learning to play like those. It's not a B-52's cover band. It's really technical stuff. So, funny thing about that was I had seen Marc Martel on his YouTube like a year before that. And I saw him sing Somebody to Love, and I said to my wife, oh my God, you have got to see this guy. And, well, it was a couple years before that because then he went on to do what's called Queen Extravaganza. And Queen Extravaganza was put together by Roger Taylor on American Idol. Mark got the job with that. And then Queen Extravaganza, for some reason, just stopped kind of touring. Maybe Roger sort of just let it go for a little bit. And the producers of Ultimate Queen Celebration, Paul and Quinn, they're a married team, put together a Queen cover band. And the band was not what they wanted. And they're like, we need to find better players. So they somehow got hooked up with Angus Clark, who's one of my closest friends, guitarist from Trans-Siberian Orchestra. And we were in an original band together called Daredevil Squadron. And he said, you got to call Jason. So they called me, and then they ended up calling Tristan Avakian, who was the original guitarist in Queen Extravaganza. And they called Mike Cohn, who is bass player in We Will Rock You. And they called it Brandon Etheridge, who was the original keyboard in Queen Extravaganza.
Oh my God.
It was like, it's a weird incestual thing. And then they got Marc Martel. And that's how it came about. And I played with them for 3 years. Had a falling out.
Okay.
It happens. Myself and the music director, there were just some issues. They are still together and touring under, I think, Marc Martel and Queen or something.
Oh.
And then the producers want to keep going with the Ultimate Queen Celebration with that name because they sort of own the name.
Oh, okay.
And they have asked me to play, and I'm a little apprehensive about kind of getting back into that because it was a little sort of a strange split with the other guys.
How does that work with the rights to the music if you're playing sizable venues, selling tickets?
Right.
Is there merch? It's like,
right.
How does that function?
So, excellent question. It was a very strange, really different situation because Mark was already involved with Queen to a certain extent.
Right.
His voice is so much like Freddie Mercury's that it's almost like a carbon copy in a way.
Right.
And I mean, technically, you're allowed to play anything live that you want.
Right.
Okay, you just are. I mean, you can do whatever you want. Even if you're making money, because it's ticket sales, you just can't sell. You're not really supposed to sell recorded. Right. That kind of thing. Brian May supposedly wanted to put a stop to us early on, and then there was a rule made at a certain time that said you can't tour within 6 months of Queen on either side. So if they're going to Australia in 4 months, you got to wait for 2 more months.
Wait, who made that rule?
I'm pretty sure it was Queen's manager.
Okay.
I'm like almost positive.
In other words, instead of rule, it's like an agreement.
Yeah, it was kind of like, let's kind of just avoid problems, make it this way. So I remember it was our second Australian tour. I can't remember which one. I think it was our first one. We had it all scheduled, or we were like kind of getting ready to do it, and they're like, nope, can't do it yet. You got to wait till after Christmas. 6 months, that kind of thing.
So back to the legal thing of it.
Yeah.
Obviously, every tribute band, you can and will play whatever you want to play. Mm-hmm. You just can't sell recordings of it, obviously, right?
Right.
Technically,
yeah.
You're not selling like DVD of the show, where you're using all of their music because there could potentially be copyright infringement with that. Right.
Yeah.
And as far as the reason I asked about merch is because I was like, well, you technically can't really have a Queen shirt if the name is owned by still former members.
Yeah. So the logo was created. It looked a lot like one of the Queen logos, like the writing and everything.
Yeah.
And I don't remember who it was. I think it was the Australian promoter refused to use the logo.
Okay.
Or pulled it or something like that. We had to do like a different picture, like his side profile of his face or something like that. So there was always a little bit of that thing.
Yeah, I just wondered. Yeah. And I mean, somebody like Brian May, I could not understand, but I guess I would see maybe he comes after sometimes this stuff, right?
Yeah.
But there is no real legal recourse, right? I know it's a sticky,
so many
weird,
furry
sticky
lines,
area. Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's like there's not like a very solid line, and like I say, I think our situation was so unique in that Marc. I mean, he's the voice of Freddie on the movie.
Yeah.
After they remixed Freddie's parts, whatever else they needed, they used Marc.
Right.
So there's all these weird drawn lines where you go, well, you can't do this, but you can do this, but you.
Yeah.
But then, like, even the stuff that we could do, there was always sort of a little bit of like, don't do that, a little needling. It was always kind of a little weird like that. And I was just a player, so I didn't get really involved in that. But I know that from a production standpoint, it was not easy.
I mean, the great thing is that it's super accurate.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Real
true to the music. So.
Yeah. Yeah, it was weird. It's like one of the things that Dan and I talk about on our show is that there's 3 levels of those type of bands. There's cover bands, which are like the bar band. We don't even pay attention to.
Yeah.
There's tribute bands, which was more like what we were doing. And then there's role-playing bands.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if you know the Musical Box, Genesis. They do like the entire movie of Supper's Ready, the 20-minute version that Gabriel did like from 1972. They act out everything he does. They dress up. The music's exactly like it.
Yeah, that's another level.
That is another level, man. And that starts getting into, okay, what about that copyright stuff?
Yeah.
So I don't really know. We were somewhere. We were more like a tribute band, but we were somewhere in there because it was so accurate. But we never also, like, the idea was not to be Queen. The idea was to feature Marc.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the music had to be really good for Marc's voice.
Right, so if he's playing the role of Freddie, really.
Right. Which he never dressed up, by the way. He didn't dress up like Freddie.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no. It was
so it's
never
not really over that line of sort of crossing into, sort of an accurate, like, Broadway representation or something, you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, it wasn't. We never dressed up like that.
Yeah.
It was always to watch the people's, like, I remember watching people's faces. Like, as soon as we started playing it and he'd start singing, everyone just went like
yeah.
Whoa. And it was not to be, the reaction was less about, like, we would start off with Tie Your Mother Down, right? And we'd be doing the groove, and people would just be kind of like this. And the reaction was less, it wasn't for them to look at us and go like, wow, cool, it's Queen. It was more just like they move it, and then his voice would start, and then they'd be like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And that was more the accurate thing.
That's it.
Yeah.
Right there. I mean, look, Jeff Salem plays with an Eagles tribute.
Yes.
Those voices are spot on.
Right.
I mean, you can't come out with a Queen tribute band and not have the voice sound like Freddie.
And I've heard that.
I'm sure. Yeah. I mean, there's definitely bands that are like doing it and the singer is just not the right thing.
Exactly.
And it's like, okay, it doesn't matter how good the music is. If that voice isn't right, forget it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's like with the, if it was going to be a Journey tribute,
right,
that better be freaking Steve Perry,
exactly.
Man.
Yeah.
I mean, their singer,
Arnell's amazing. Yeah.
That guy. I mean, that's how they found him, is on like karaoke on YouTube or something, right?
Yep.
That guy was like spot on.
Yep.
Yeah. Isn't it amazing that Dean Castronova?
Holy crap, his voice.
His
singing voice is insane.
I saw Journey with Steve, the
Steve Argeri.
Steve Argeri.
Yeah.
And he was struggling a little.
Yeah.
And so he would leave the stage
Yeah.
and Dean would sing.
Yeah.
And Dean would sing like the really high Steve Perry
Yeah.
stuff
Yep.
while he's playing.
Yes.
And I was like, holy crap, that guy sounds even more like him. Unbelievable. Spot on.
He's a great singer. I mean, he doesn't have just a good voice. Like, he could sing his ass off. He's got control.
Killer.
He's got the separation of voice to, like the limbs.
Yeah.
He's amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Just
outside
ridiculous.
of being a great drummer, but
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah.
Crazy.
I know. A lot of good people out there.
Yeah.
So that I toured the world with them for about 3+ years.
Nice.
And I really got to see a lot of the world, and it was wonderful. You get a little boxed in. You get a little bit like, this is the only thing I'm playing now.
Right.
Now
with that, it's pretty formulated, right?
Mm-hmm.
Definite sets.
Yeah.
Same show. Same show.
Yeah, a couple songs that would fly in and out, kind of thing.
Right.
And it started to get to a point where there was no, I should say, like diminishing room for improvisation.
Right.
And then that's kind of was like, that was sort of the rub.
Yeah.
You know what I
mean,
mean?
there's a drum solo feature, right? No?
Just a little bit at the end of like one song.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So, it was kind of a weird thing. And you start getting boxed in like that. You start going, Bill Bruford had the greatest line I ever heard in my life. As you are, I'm sure, I'm an enormous Yes fan,
Yeah.
And he was doing a clinic at the Collective when his book came out. And he was talking about how when he recorded Close to the Edge, it was the last thing that he recorded with Yes during their heyday, until Union came along. And he said it was the most creative thing I had ever done. And we were at the peak of our, existence. And I raised my hand and I said, "Why did you leave then?" Because I was being nice about it. I mean, it wasn't anything bad. I was just like, I don't understand. You wait all your life to get to that point. Why would you leave? And he totally outlined it. He goes, because I had the mentality of a jazz player, not a rock player. I wanted to play with different things.
Yeah.
I wanted to move around. And I started to kind of, when you play the same thing over and over again, and it's not even your stuff.
Yeah.
After a while, you're going like, well, now my creativity thing is dying.
Yeah.
So lately, one of the things that's been going on lately is I've just been playing so many awesome gigs with people I've wanted to play with. You know what I mean? That I'm like, yeah, I wanted to do that tribute band. I wanted to play with the, Ed Palermo big band, which I got gigs coming up with. I wanted to do all that stuff, but I couldn't do it before. And at the time when you kind of leave a gig, you're a little down, but then you leave it and you go, okay, no, this was supposed to happen,
Nice,
that kind of thing. So
yeah, man,
it's interesting. Yeah, so it was fun.
Does Ray
really
still
fun.
do? Is he?
Yeah, Ray still plays.
Yeah. I got to get him on the show.
He's such a great guy, and man, talk about a working player, man. That guy
Yeah, man.
plays with everyone.
I went to him. I met him through Ray Grappone and Dave Clive had a drum shop in Brooklyn, and
Cool.
Ray did like a little clinic there, and I had met him. So I was like, oh man, I want to come out and take a lesson with you. And he was like, we did a couple, and he's like, you know what? Go to the Collective and go see Kim.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he
That's
was
funny.
like, he goes, I think that's, he kind of felt like where I was headed. I was into fusion and all this stuff. He was
Sure.
like, yeah, go see Kim at the Collective. That's how I went up at the Collective. But
Yeah.
Ray was a sweetheart of a guy.
He's just so nice, and he's so it's weird when you start playing those type of gigs because you have to kind of suck it up and sub out a lot of stuff, and you're subbing out to like really good, the list of people that have played with these people that they do it's big players, but a guy like that is just so humble. He's just like, no, man, have a great time, and that kind of thing. It's super cool,
Yeah.
That's what I love. Those are the people in the family that I love. There's a lot of people that are not like that you don't love as much.
Indeed.
But yeah, he's a great guy. Yeah. So yeah, that was fun. Yeah.
I'm gonna give you. Let's just check real quick. Mike. Hey man, Mike Zimbak.
Oh, he's talking about the Old and Queen. Yeah, he came to see me in Mike. Where was it, buddy? Somewhere. maybe the Allentown area or something like that.
Oh, nice.
And it was great to see him, and he loved it, and it was just great seeing him. And Mike's a wonderful guy. We do a lot of work together. So
Sweet.
Yeah.
Um,
It's like no one's asking questions. So, but go ahead. Yeah.
That's all right. I want to do my speed round questions.
Yeah, man. Let's do it.
And so like the interesting thing too, like I thought about playing some music. Maybe that's another episode.
Some of my music, you mean?
Like listening to some music together.
Oh, yeah.
And kind of going
we
down
should
some
do that.
rabbit holes.
Oh, maybe we should do that one time as a separate thing and just
Yeah.
get together and just.
Because we have a lot of the same music in common
Absolutely.
that we like.
Absolutely.
Maybe
that could be a roundtable-y thing.
Yeah.
With Jim and some of the people we're talking
It's going to
about.
get muted eventually on Facebook. They'll mute the whole
Shit.
thing. But you know, if we're doing a more analysis stuff, we can keep it on YouTube. But I think it'll be really fun to like kind of like go through some bands like in sort of the lineage of progressive stuff. I don't know.
Progressive stuff, yeah.
I don't know. Like one thing that I went through was discovering Yes,
Mm-hmm.
and then discovering Mahavishnu,
Mm-hmm.
and then discovering UK,
Mm-hmm.
and sort of going down the Alan Holdsworth
Mhm.
thing, and then like sort of the UK stuff kind of led me to following Terry, and then listening to more Zappa,
yeah.
and then sort of branching out from all the players.
Sure.
And there used to be kind of this thing where, I mean, for me, where it was going into a record store and picking up records or CDs later, and then looking at the back and reading who the players were,
Sure.
and then looking for connecting dots
Yeah.
between guys playing with guys.
Mhm.
And of course, you know, our younger students are like, oh yeah, just go to Wikipedia. And, you know, it's like, it's all there. We had to like go to,
Yeah.
for me, Titus Oaks on Avenue U in Brooklyn and go through
Sam
the
Goody.
thing, Sam Goody, whatever. And like, you know, we would go to the record stores or in the village, you know, going to all the vinyl places
Sure.
in the village and connecting those dots,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And I think we could really go through some music together. It'd be really
Yeah,
fun.
that would be fun. Yeah.
I need my
Speed round.
glasses.
Oh, yeah. By the way, I have my reading glasses over there, and these are my progressives. That's how blind I am. Thanks, folks.
Oh man,
Yeah.
you know, it's funny because I always go, man, I'm so blind, and then it makes me think of there's a Jim Gaffigan joke where he's like, yeah, but you know, then there's blind people. You know, it's like, and I play with like a blind piano player on a pretty regular basis. So I'm like, I'm so blind without these. I'm like, well, but
Maybe I should shut
Johnny's
up.
actually blind.
It's blind.
You know, it's like, so I can't steal his thunder. You know.
Oh, my God, yeah.
All right.
This is fun.
I already kind of covered a couple of these.
Okay.
First drum you ever owned?
Okay. Does it have to be a drum or could it be something electronic?
Oh yeah, whatever.
Synsonics. The little 4-padded that
Oh,
thing.
yeah.
Yeah. It's had like buttons you could push to make noises. Yeah.
Holy crap.
Yeah. And then when I got a kid, it was my parents bought it from Milburn Music where I started taking lessons. It was a 70 something Ludwig, like a lead red sparkle. And then since then I just
What?
Yeah. I've been playing Yamaha my whole life.
My first kit,
Ludwig
Ludwig
by the
Red
way,
Sparkle.
what?
Ludwig Red Sparkle, 24, 14,
Oh
18.
no, mine was smaller, but wow, that's funny.
I was like this big, and the bass drum was this big. You
wow.
know, it was like, yeah, Sam Ash in Brooklyn, upstairs on the corner of Kings Highway and Coney Island Avenue. Upstairs, Ludwig Red Sparkle 4-piece. It
That's
was a Slingerland
insane.
snare drum, and with a Slingerland like chrome snare with that Ludwig Red Sparkle
insane. Yeah, mine was matching snare.
kit. 70s.
70s, 22, 14. Was it 12? I think it was 12, 13, 16. Yeah, 12, 13, 16.
Wow.
Yeah,
Oh my God.
amazing. And by the way, before we end, I definitely want to thank my companies. But go
Yeah,
ahead.
yeah, indeed.
Yeah.
We'll definitely hit it.
Yeah.
First, a record that you bought, maybe with your own money.
I don't remember
perhaps.
the first one, but I do have a couple that I remember buying. Exit Stage Left.
Yeah.
Gosh. Oh God, I was just thinking of this the other day. What are some of the ones that I Stay Hungry, Twisted Sister,
Nice.
Kiss Alive 2. I I think those are the first that I bought with my own money.
Nice.
I'm pretty sure. But like I said, my parents had tons and like I didn't almost have to buy stuff.
Yeah.
Because I was just always listening to stuff in the house. They had tons and tons of records lying around.
My dad was a classical music buff, so there was tons of classical, and he had a few jazz records.
Yeah.
And he gave me, and this is what got my ear, Dave Brubeck Take 5 on vinyl.
Cool.
And I was just saying this the other night with John Riley when we were talking, and I was like, Blue Rondo a la Turk is what blew my mind.
9/8. Yep.
On that record, I was just like, oh my God, what's that?
Yep.
I was listening to Kiss before that,
Yep.
and Aerosmith and Black Sabbath and like all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then I heard Blue Rondo a la Turk, and my mind was just like,
Yep. Yeah. Oh, amazing.
So,
Amazing.
Which, by the way, we have a hand technique workshop routine in 9/8 that's all based on that melody. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
So it's like all
Yeah.
flam rudiments.
Oh,
putting
check
that
it,
together.
Yeah.
So first concert you attended.
So we talked about that Kiss.
So that was
79.
Kiss,
Yep,
79. Me too.
Mhm.
That wasn't my first concert because I was going to classical stuff at Lincoln Center with my dad. I was, at the time I wasn't that thrilled. Looking back now,
Yeah.
it's like I was at the Philharmonic, the Opera, the ballet,
you're
seeing all
lucky,
that stuff.
man. That's great.
And then he took me to see Buddy Rich at Brooklyn Academy of Music when I was 11, and that was pretty mind-blowing. And then it was Kiss.
You got a good
Yeah.
dad. That's good.
Yeah. He was a music buff who was not a musician, but studied theory and studied music from books,
Oh, that's
but didn't
so
play
cool.
any instruments.
That's
Isn't that
cool.
weird?
That's cool.
Yeah. He
Wow.
wanted me to be a classical percussionist, really.
Yeah.
Is what he kind of had in his head.
Yeah, that's amazing.
First drum hero.
I mean, it's probably Neal. You and I were talking before. I mean, we're both the world's biggest Rush fans, but this is a weird thing. And
Happy birthday in heaven. Neal.
Yes, happy 70th, Neal. I am less drawn to individual musicians
Right.
and more drawn to bands and music.
Yeah.
So I don't have a ton of straight up heroes. I mean, Neal was just it for many years, for all of us, that generation.
But so was Bill Bruford.
And Bill Bruford and Buddy. I had a long love affair with Buddy, long time. But it was probably Neal. I'd have to just say that.
Nice.
Yeah, but the cool thing about Neal is it made me spin out to so many others and so many other bands,
Well, I would have to say also, I mean, just going back to the Kiss thing, when I was like, that age, like 11 or whatever it was, I mean, hearing like the first drum solo that I ever heard was sort
God
of that
Thunder or something like that.
100,000 years
100,
from like Alive, right?
Yeah.
Where he's kind of playing a triplet based solo, you know what I mean? Like almost Gene Krupa-ish, if you will. And then the cowbell thing in that. So he's going like and it was all triplets, and I was like, that thing to me, because it swung, I guess maybe, and it was kind of just cool. I was like, that's fun.
Yeah.
That's interesting, as a little kid.
Peter was up there too because Kiss was that first experience. But remember, like I was saying before, and I wasn't playing anything in '79.
Oh, you weren't playing yet,
right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I wasn't really playing. So I wanted to do that.
Yeah,
I loved that, but I wasn't really playing yet. So I think by the time I started, I started playing, and then it was the tail end of moving pictures, and then Signals came out, and I heard Subdivisions, and I was like, oh my God, what is going on here?
Yeah.
And that blew my mind. So it probably is that.
Yeah. Wow. Oh, interesting. First gig you ever did. So it could be as a little kid. I mean, mine, I've told this many times. It was a nursing home. I was like 11, whatever, in a button-down shirt with a trio, which was Chet Tabow's nephews.
Oh, cool.
So me, Johnny Tabow, and Lou Tabow, Jr. Playing for old people.
That's
TV
amazing.
show themes.
That's amazing. So, funny story. I got to give my dad a heads up on this one. So, my grandfather had just passed away in '87, his dad, and I had the Neal kit. And we had our first gig, and it was at a house party. And so I had to move. We called it the fungus. Okay? So I had to move the fungus, right? So my dad is talking to the band and me, and he goes, were you guys playing? And he said, and I said at somebody's house, I forget who it was. And he said, and how are you getting there? And then I stopped, and he goes, you didn't think about that, did you? And he goes, your mom's not going to drive you there or pick you up because it's going to be really late. And I'm not going to pick you up because I have to work in the morning. And your grandfather's not going to pick you up because he's dead.
Oh my
dad
God.
said that to me. I'm like, what? Oh my God. But again, it made me think like, oh, I got to think about how I'm driving around, you know? But anyway, long story short, we threw everything in a bunch of trucks and we went over, and it was just a local friend's house, you know? But, but it was a gig.
It was a gig.
And I think shortly after that, the same band did the Holiday Inn in town or something like that.
Oh my God, that's great. Yeah. What year was that?
87.
83, 84, I was playing L'Amour in Brooklyn.
Wow, no kidding.
With my metal band.
Good,
called
man.
Axis. There's a picture I'll show you on
that.
Facebook.
Yeah.
But Axis. So we would open for like some bands, and we also did the Battle of the Bands a couple times up against Carnivore.
Oh, no kidding.
So
wow.
Carnivore was Peter Steele before Typo. So I knew him from the neighborhood, but we opened for them after that, but we played against them in the Battle of the Bands, and I was the only drummer, I think, that ever went into L'Amour with, first of all, red sparkle, double bass red sparkle kit at that point. I added on. And a Jenko Decanter white marine pearl vibraphone on stage because I had mallet parts because we were sort of like progressive metal-ish. Right. So I had like some mallet parts that I had to play. Totally bananas.
That's great.
Worst or weirdest gig?
Oh, God.
Just one.
Oh my! There are so.
Weird. Like, what about a weird one?
A weird. I got a couple. Okay. Well, first of all, that was a very big part of also what happened with my band Migs. Okay. Is we were just playing some of the worst, crappiest gigs, and it was just getting to me really, really bad. Weirdest one. Nudist colony.
Oh my God!
Or they call it a naturist colony. And when you play a nudist colony in the middle of California, you're not talking about the Playboy Mansion.
Right.
Lots of hair, lots of weird things. And we played, and they were lovely people. You know, they were great. But our manager at the time said to us, "Look, they're really great people," and they were really great people. They love to dance. They might be nude in front of you, and it was not very pretty, but they love to buy merch.
Oh
and
my
I said,
God.
Where do they keep their money? I just don't want to know, you know. But yes, there are a zillion, but that was one of the ones that really sticks in my head. Yeah. Let me tell you, man, I'm sure we could go back and forth, but you as well, have paid my dues.
Oh, yeah.
Man.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, not like this new generation.
Oh, my God.
Oh, my God. We could get into YouTube for hours, but I don't want to start.
Yeah. Oh, my God. No, that's so true. By the way, you know, John and I were talking the other night about how there used to not be any backlines.
Oh, yeah. Right.
You know.
Right.
And that was like, you know, think about the bitter end.
Yeah.
Right?
Right. Yeah, that load in. Ugh.
The load in.
Yeah.
And get the stuff into the back.
Yeah.
Because you couldn't put it in the front.
Right.
So you put it in the back room behind that cage thing.
Yep.
And then your set would happen. So you carry it through the crowd again. And you put it on the stage. And then
when you're done, all the crowd's right there by the bar.
Yeah.
And you have nowhere to replace
you can't, like, why did it take decades for somebody to go, why don't we just keep a drum set on stage so that people don't have to carry their shit through the club every, you know, it's awful. Anyway, all right.
Bye.
Hey, so I'm going to mention some drummers.
Okay.
And I want reactions.
Okay.
So we could do that part.
Great.
So it's so funny how depending on who I'm interviewing.
Yeah, it's like bracketed or
the
something.
lists get different. But I was going to say Alan White.
Oh, okay.
Rest in peace.
Yes. So I'm trying to remember the first time I listened to Yes. But actively, I mean, obviously it was like 80s and, you know, you would hear like, you know, 90125 and that was Alan and everything. But then I really started listening to old stuff. So I think I want to say that I was a little more into Bruford at first. And then I heard like Relayer and Tails and stuff like that. And I'm like, whoa, this guy's crazy. The first time that I noticed how I like Alan's style was during the Union tour. because it was Bill and
Yeah.
it was Alan.
I saw that
and
tour.
they were doing the what's now called Mind Drive, that that thing in 7, and they were soloing. And when Alan was soloing, I'm like, wow, I love his sound. I love his style. You know, Bruford's got that very different, you know, French grip, you know, electronics. But Alan was more like what I was playing.
Yeah.
And I just loved him. And it was just, you know, Bill is more of that like jazzier kind of, you know, improvisatory type of player, where Alan really had parts.
Yeah.
And I really liked Alan's parts. I feel like his parts were part of the music more, if that made sense.
Definitely.
You know?
Yeah.
You know?
It's funny. It's like, as much as I liked Bruford in the early Yes stuff, I really liked Bruford better when I started listening to his music.
Yeah, like One of a Kind or something.
One of a
like
Kind.
That.
Feels Good to Me.
Yeah.
What's the one with Gradually Going Tornado?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like, man, like it's just like he found his thing, you know, in that. I think.
Yeah.
And then his later thing,
Earthworks. Yeah.
Earthworks. Yeah. But Alan saw him on the drama tour.
Oh, and what a great record!
Oh
One of
my God.
favorites.
I
mean,
love
so
that
good.
album. I mean,
So
every
overlooked.
track on that record, even like what's it, White Car?
White Car. Man in a white car. Yeah.
That marimba part, and
Yeah.
there's timpani, classical
Incredible.
snare drum.
And Trevor Horn is so good on that record.
Yeah,
Yeah.
really
Amazing.
interesting. So that
Yeah.
that record kind of, you know, with Alan kind of solidified this thing of like, yeah, man, like he's just playing such amazing parts.
Yeah.
You know, and the ones that came before that for sure.
I mean,
Yeah, man. Alan, we love you, Alan.
we love you. Alan. I
We
miss you.
you. Oh man.
Too many are leaving.
I know. It's scary. What about, I'm going to throw somebody out there that
Anybody?
doesn't really fit into any of the stuff that we've talked about, and he's on my list for somebody else, which is kind of funny because I have sort of a in memory of list.
Oh, yeah.
Because one night we were talking about, I think this was my list, which is kind of funny that I pulled up the wrong list, but this was my list for Omar.
Oh, okay.
But Charlie Watts.
Tough one.
I
Tough
know.
one.
I know.
Yeah. That's a tough one. You know, one of those guys where you say what he is doing would not be the same with any other drummer.
Right.
I mean, the Rolling Stones would not be the same without Charlie Watts.
First of all,
Simple as put.
you can use his name to tell somebody to play a certain inflection.
Sure.
Right? So you can go,
Play the Charlie Watts.
I need you to Charlie Watts that.
Yeah, right, exactly.
And drummers
yeah.
are going to know on the backbeat we're going to pull. And
Pull
he
the hand
actually like sort of,
like whipped it back.
he
in a way
whips
or
it
something.
back. So he goes like,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, it's part of his time in a way.
And it's, part of his time, and he plays traditional grip.
plays traditional. Yeah.
So it's kind of like there's an interesting thing that he did. But then if you talk to Keltner, he would say, well, Charlie would say that he got that from Keltner,
Huh.
which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, I never heard that, and I don't want to speculate, but
Yeah. So
interesting.
there's been some discussions among a few drummers who kind of, came up with that thing. And the reason the Keltner thing was about, for recording purposes, the engineers loved it because
you just
they
heard
got
the
this
snare.
clarity of just the snare.
Yeah, interesting.
So, yeah.
Interesting. I don't know.
Interesting.
Yeah,
But you're right.
Charlie is like, he's not my thing.
Right.
Not because you don't have to be technical or it's nothing. It's not that kind of thing. Because I've also heard him play jazz, and I have many, many more favorite jazz players than Charlie Watts. Too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
100%.
So I always felt like he was like moderate talent-wise, but there's no replacing him in what he did.
Yeah.
So
I mean, think of certain bands would not be the same without those drummers.
absolutely.
Beatles,
Positively.
Ringo,
Yep.
The Who.
The Who. Yep.
Definitely Keith Moon
Yep.
was doing something that no one ever
Yeah.
did.
Ginger Baker. Yeah, the whole thing.
Ginger
Yeah,
Baker.
Yeah.
Although, personality-wise, I don't want to go there. But, and then think of, I don't know, that first Black Sabbath album.
Sure.
Bill Ward swinging the crap out of that whole,
Yep.
So it's really interesting, how as kids, people would be really harsh about judging certain drummers,
Mm-hmm.
I found. And I was always like, but that's the sound of that band.
Yeah, can you make that sound? Can you get that lope in your playing?
Yeah. Are you
Yeah.
gonna? People. When I was a kid, would be like comparing Ringo to Neil, and it's like, listen, what Ringo's doing is genius for that music.
Yeah.
You wouldn't put him in Rush.
Yeah.
There would be no,
And you
there's
would
no
not
reason.
put Neil in the Beatles.
And you would not put Neil in the Beatles
Yeah.
because Neil would not make that music
Yeah,
sound right.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Yeah.
anyway, yeah, baby.
Who else?
How about Jack DeJohnette?
Oh, why are you looking at the camera when you're talking to Jack?
Hi, Jack.
Oh. So, contemporary jazz is my favorite era of jazz.
Right.
Okay, so we're talking early 60s through the late 60s, basically. Miles Band, Tony
Same.
is like, to me, the greatest thing that's ever been made.
Yeah.
Obviously, Elvin with Coltrane. And so the three drummers that you sort of usually lump together at that time is Tony, Elvin, and Jack.
Right.
And, I mean, you could kind of maybe bridge Paul Motion in there and some other guys, Roy Haynes, that kind of thing. But Jack was the first guy that I ever heard play straight broken jazz the way he played it, where I was like, what the hell is going on here?
Yeah.
How is it like it's straight, but it's still swinging, and his limbs are kind of moving almost independently of each other. How is this happening? And then he also like almost reinvented himself by becoming this drummer that sort of like almost in a meditative way would just kind of just get in his dashiki and just sort of just, he's such a trendsetter in that way,
Yeah.
But those three guys, I'm not trying to bring Tony and Elvin into Jack's conversation, but those three guys to me were like everything at that period of time.
100%.
And I could play a little more like Elvin or Tony if I had to. I can't do the things that Jack does. It's just something about it.
And it's very lyrical playing.
Mm-hmm.
Right, melodic and lyrical.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how else to describe it, but
yeah.
sort of as if he's singing melodies through his time playing.
Taking a couple lessons with Ian Froman was really helpful for me because Ian pointed out the idea that at that period of time, you went from so big band was all about the hi-hat on the 2 and the 4 replacing the hand claps. The bebop was more about now it's hi-hat and ride, and then you're comping between snare and bass, and it's a lot of fast stuff. The contemporary became all about the ride cymbal.
Yeah.
It was so if you want to listen to ride, turn on Miles, Gingerbread Boy, and listen to Tony Williams, and just listen to the ride and go like, oh my God, I didn't even realize. So during that period of time, what identified those players were what they were doing with the ride.
Yeah.
And the way that Jack did this, but like in such a musical way and still swung is like, it's almost indescribable in a way.
Yeah.
This is incredible.
Oh my God.
We could talk forever.
We could talk for days and days and weeks and days.
Look how he does that thing.
I got one or two more.
Good. Jim Toscano. Joe Bergamini.
I'm going to say, a good favorite of both Joe and I. So I'm going to say Simon because I think Simon is one of those guys. Did you see the episode? No. Watch my Simon episode.
I haven't seen it. I've been wanting to see it. Yes.
It's a good episode. We
time.
actually, it was kind of cool. We just really went down the recording rabbit hole.
Right.
Like went deep into like sort of recording.
Look who wrote the foreword to my book.
Oh no! What?
I can't find it.
Get out of here!
It's in there. There you go. Simon Phillips. Yeah.
Nice.
I don't know Simon very well. We've met a couple times, but I don't know him very well. But so here's what I think about Simon. There are two players that I feel that every time new players come up and you go, wow, this guy's an MFer. Look at this guy. That two players just kind of peek out from behind and you go, oh yeah, sorry, we forgot about that. Yeah,
right.
One is Bozio and one is Simon Phillips.
Yeah.
And every single time there's a guy that does a shuffle or does something, or, it's powerful, you go, but you can't forget about Simon.
Yeah.
He started that whole thing.
Definitely.
You know, it's and he's one of those guys where you just know he's playing. Like when you hear like Give Blood or something like that, or you know, or
We talked about that track when he was on, but
God, what a
I
track.
always tell him, I'm always like, and he has a funny story about doing that track because it wound up, they gave him the wrong date for the recording sessions.
Oh my God, you're kidding.
So he was supposed to be there a week later.
Yeah.
He showed up a week early
Right.
because they gave him the wrong date.
Jeez.
Pete gave him the wrong date.
Yeah.
And so they weren't ready for him. So it wasn't a fully formed thing yet, track. And he said Pete Townsend had to like go and get a tape from a different studio and then bring it there. And then, he had to kind of argue with the producer to play what he wound up playing on that track.
Maybe those kind of Latinesque parts or something like that.
Yeah. And sort of, just, they had something like straighter in mind.
Oh, and he had to do
Yeah. And it's just such a good feeling track.
Disgusting, man.
How good does that track feel? It's
Like
just
whenever
so ridiculous.
Whenever somebody says to me, what song would you want to play on? You know, from a groove standpoint, I either say Barracuda by Heart,
Yeah.
or Give Blood by Pete Townsend. It's so amazing.
It's just so good. And then the other thing that's with Simon, I feel like not only do you always know it's him, but if you put on an album like Toto Tamboo,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
With a lot of sort of these wide ballads.
Yeah. Oh,
What he does with space
Yes.
is just so incredible.
Yeah.
He'll play less notes, but the fill sounds bigger. He'll play less notes, but the groove sounds bigger.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just in the way that he approaches the stuff.
Yeah.
And it's always grooving. Where he sits things is so great. And then he's got all this other stuff. All these other colors that he can, bring forward.
Yeah, I think of a song like "Bottom of Your Soul." I don't know if you know that Toto song, and some of the fills he's doing in there. And the first reaction is, I would never do that, and it's perfect. Like that's what I'd want to do, but I'm going in a different way. Because it's a 6/8 thing. Like the thing you go, holy crap, what did he just do? And it's perfect. It's
perfect every time.
So musical, man.
In my book, I transcribed the break that he did in "Toss the Feathers"
I don't know that song as well.
by the Irish group. Damn, I'm gonna forget the Curs. Shit.
I don't know.
So he recorded with this Irish group.
Yeah.
And they have a female drummer in the band.
Okay.
But for this track, they asked Simon to play.
Yeah.
And he does a break. It's just like, first of all, the groove is great. It's like a simple, it's sounds like Irish folk music
Oh, cool.
over groove.
Okay.
And he's playing sort of like a boom, chicka bap, chicka boom, chicka bap, chicka boom, chicka bap over this thing. And then he gets this break, and it's just a 1 bar break. And there's a video of it. And the engineers in the booth just like fall out of their they lose their shit. They're just like, oh my God.
I love it.
It's just so killer.
I love it.
But yeah, he's just unbelievable.
Yeah, it's like I was saying before, it's just like I always feel like I'm making comparisons to those two guys.
Yeah.
Not because people are playing like them, but just because you can't forget about them.
Right.
Like, how can you ever forget? Whenever I think of like ostinatos and the progressive stuff, I go, but you can't ever forget about Terry. Yeah, it's right there.
Yeah, right there.
Yeah. You know?
I got that autograph at SIR in the city.
Sure.
He did a clinic
Yeah.
when the ostinato drumming thing came
Yeah.
out. Were you at that clinic or
No, I was a little young, but I like lived, ate, and breathed that video.
Yeah.
That became the root of a lot of stuff.
That clinic was great, man.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And actually, Tony Verderosa opened for him.
And he was doing amazing stuff.
He was doing all this crazy stuff, like with
electronic
samples
stuff.
and
Yeah, man, amazing. Tony V's great.
yeah, it was killer.
Yeah.
That was a fun clinic. I got
Another
fun
one
stories
down-
from that day.
I'm liking this. You got another one down there?
Yeah. So I'm gonna do. Well, we already kind of covered Neal, I think, right?
Yeah, we covered it.
And we didn't even touch on, and we kind of covered Garibaldi. We love Garibaldi, so we don't even talk about you. All right, buddy.
Sorry, Dave.
Sorry, Dave. You're out.
You're out.
But I'm gonna mention Chester Thompson
Okay.
because there's a picture of him up there.
Yeah.
So Chester, like, I know him from Zappa.
Yeah.
Kind of. So that was my introduction to him. So what is your feeling about Chester's playing, and like where did you learn of him, just through Genesis or?
Yeah, I went backwards. So I learned him Genesis. I think maybe he was even doing. I'm trying to think of the stuff in the '80s, but I learned of him through Genesis, and then I became a huge Mothers fan, and then I was like, oh, he's on this too.
Yeah.
You know, and then it was like that kind of thing. Chester is like, he's like one of the how do I say this? There's that type of playing deserves a really refined approach.
Yeah.
You know, lots of ghost notes, lots of really fast playing. Chester's the guy that could do it really organically in a way that's got a little bit of grease to it. Maybe even slightly sloppy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But not sloppy where you go, oh, this sucks, this is sloppy. Sloppy in a way where you're like, how's he doing that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Greasy,
sloppy.
Like if you check out there's some stuff from the 70s with George Duke is playing and Chester's playing live with Zappa's band, and Ruth Underwood's doing all the percussion on it.
Sure.
And like they do this, you know, they're playing some of the tunes, and then they do that thing approximate.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like that's, you know, watching him at work with that is really interesting. But then he played on some of the tracks, like from Gregory Peccary, like some of the weirder, like, you know, as I like to say, sort of audible animation, like kind of things that Zappa did. And then when you hear him just laying the shit down in Genesis, and grooving so hard,
yeah.
I just feel like he's another one of those chameleons, you know. I don't know that I would know his playing,
right,
if I was hearing something that I wasn't familiar with. I don't know that I would pick it out in the way that I would pick out Simon.
I would probably pick out the Zappa stuff more than anything else.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, because you could hear him in that stuff a little more.
Yeah, because Bozio was carving out a certain sonic space.
Right.
You know it's Bozio. Vinny stuff, you know it's Vinny.
Yeah.
And then I think you would definitely know in that context, you would know Chester. But if he was like playing on a pop record that I hadn't heard, I don't know that I would pick out. Because from a sound point of view, I don't think he was carving out something that specific.
Yeah.
Like Bozio has a very specific sound.
Right.
Simon really has a specific thing. Like you hear it every single time. You know?
Sure.
I always go back to the Nick Kershaw stuff that I heard Simon playing on. Some really incredible stuff.
Sure.
But I love Chester's playing. Anyway.
Yeah, he's great.
So and sometimes I bring up, you know, I feel like he's an underdog in a way.
Yeah.
Like not a lot of drummers talk about him.
I think maybe it's a little bit of the overshadowing of Phil.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, it was always double drumming.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When you think about, I mean, I'm a diehard Genesis fan, and when I think of Genesis, I don't think of Chester.
Right.
You know, but he was in the band just as long as most of them.
Yeah.
You know, like he's been in the band forever, you know?
And I mean, we could say, you know, I did a page on Phil in my book. Phil Collins, like, that's another one where the younger drummers would like be like, Phil Collins.
So good.
And I'm like,
ugh.
Just listen to like some of the lesser known tracks, what he's playing. He's just so good. It's always the right thing. The right feel, the right thing, the right fills, the right everything. You know, it's like, I don't know. He's just, I think, one of the most underrated and one of the most important drummers in that realm of stuff.
I think that the newer generation, I mean, we could get started on this forever, and I know we don't have enough time, but the newer generation doesn't understand the concept of trend setting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And, you know, Phil was one of the first drummers to ever do a 20-plus minute song.
Yeah.
That's really orchestrated. You know what I mean?
True.
That kind of thing. I mean, it didn't have to be a 20-minute drum solo, but it was that kind of thing. You know, I don't care what he's playing. Well, it's very good, but I don't care what he's playing. That's enough for me to go, hey, man, he kind of did it first, or was one of the first.
Yeah.
You know, Christ, Genesis started in like 1960. Well, he wasn't in the first record or two, but he was on the first, you know, like his first record was like 69 or 70 or something.
Yeah.
I mean, God, that is so many years ago.
Yeah.
And he was so good at the time, you know? So
really playing interesting parts.
Yeah.
You know.
Musical.
Yeah.
Whole thing. You know, but Chester is, you know, I think Chester carved an interesting niche for himself that may have not been enabled him to be one of the greats in the way of opinionated drummers, if that makes sense, you know.
Yeah.
But he was just but he was around and involved in so many great things, you know.
I mean, you know what's funny? Like thinking about, and I just have one more to wrap it up, but thinking about also sort of underrated. Like I feel like a lot of people don't give Alex Van Halen props.
Oh God, yeah.
And he played some amazing stuff.
Amazing.
Swinging like always. Always swinging, right?
Yeah.
Totally swinging.
Yeah.
I love kind of the sort of not so popular Van Halen tunes because, you know, some of the stuff, I mean, even on some of the more popular ones, you listen to certain things that are getting played.
Yeah.
Like take Jump.
Oh,
the guitar solo.
Oh yeah, it's incredible.
Great, right?
Incredible.
Like whenever I teach that to a student, they're always like, "What the is happening?"
What is going on?
And it's like it's so locked in with the guitar melody, but then like listening to things like Sinner's Swing,
yeah, sure,
stuff like that.
Ice Cream Man, little guitars, all those, like
all that
really
stuff.
Rare stuff.
What's the Green album, Women and Children First?
Yeah,
there's a couple sort of lesser known tunes on that. I'm blanking on it.
Too. Yeah.
Where it's sort of shuffle bass stuff, and he's swinging the crap out of that stuff, and it's like just killer. Man.
So killer, so killer.
Joe B and I were always talking about like, oh man, it would be amazing to do a really in-depth Alex Van Halen project, and he wanted to do a book with Alex, which didn't happen, and then somebody else put something out. There is something out.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
But man, like that's a guy, like he didn't do the clinic thing.
Right.
He's not an education-minded guy, so he doesn't really care about that.
Right.
I don't think,
Right.
you know, but it would be interesting to get his take on some of the stuff that he did. You
Love
know?
to pick his brain. Yeah.
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 For sure.
Amazing. Like, how did you come up with the beginning of Hot for Teacher?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
You know, it sounded to me, it was like, you know, pad that was a bass drum sound on his feet were the same sound. And
Yeah.
he's doing that with a hand and then, you know, with
Yeah.
the feet. And, you know, how did you come up with that? You know?
And then just even the ride pattern is super cool.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, there are a lot of really cool shuffles that came before, but he did change that.
Something different.
Did something different.
Yeah.
I'm gonna mention this one other guy, which it's funny, there's so many guys, right? Of course.
Yeah.
But what do you think of? So, where do you sit with Ash Sohn?
Oh, Ash is wonderful.
Isn't he amazing?
Amazing. And he's a great guy too. I love Ash. We speak from time to time on Instagram and see each other and stuff.
I reached out to him about doing the show.
Oh, you should.
I got to try again.
Yeah.
I didn't. You know, he hasn't agreed yet. But
his groove is just. You know, he's one of those new guys that you go, he gets it, man.
Yeah.
He there's two new guys from like the R&B-ish world that I think are just like not R&B-ish world, the kind of like are bringing back that classic groove sound. Ash is one of them, and then Brian Dunn is another. You know Brian from Hall & Oates?
Good friends with Brian.
Oh yeah, he's so good, man.
Yeah.
You know that deep pocket thing, and Ash.
Brian is, man. He's one of those guys that not a lot of guys know about him.
He's so great.
Such a great
and
player.
A sweetheart of a guy, man. Really.
Brian, are you in here?
You in there, Brian? Hello.
He might be in here.
Hello. Oh, hey, there's Chris.
Chris Castillo, what's up?
What's up, man?
How you doing, my brother? It's been a long time. We got to catch up.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. The cores.
Oh right.
Toss the feathers.
Yeah, right.
The
Toss the
cores.
feathers, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, Ash. So he did a great clinic at PASIC a couple years ago.
Fantastic.
Right? You were at that.
Oh
right?
yeah. And he's got that, like you were saying before, with like, I don't know if we'd know exactly who was playing. You know, nowadays with technology, it's so hard to tell.
Yeah.
But he has that sound where you go, oh, he really thought about his sound.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? He's not just a groover. He's got a certain tune. He sits a certain way. He's a little above the drums. You know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know, that sound came out. I was like, yeah, that guy, he's great.
Yeah. He's a great player. I mean, Andrew, what's up?
Where is it? I'm just about to thank you guys.
Wait. Let me get this one over here.
There's a whole pile back here.
Wait. We got to get this one because this one. Yeah, baby.
That's the one I love the most.
The blackout
Thank you
pad,
for making
baby.
that.
Woo!
I should thank my companies too. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Last thing I'm going to mention about Ash
Yeah.
is listen to that Seal record with Red Zone Killer.
Oh
on it.
yeah.
That shuffle. Oof.
Yeah, he did a shuffle at Paiste, and I don't remember which.
That's the tune.
Was that the one? Oh, it's
Yeah.
disgusting. Yeah, it was great, man.
Even the entrance to it, it's a little tiny half beat fill.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So killer.
You know,
man.
it's funny. I'll say real quick, and I'm sorry to make a left turn from Ash, but playing the Steely Dan gig the other night was such a revealing. How do I even explain it? You play these songs all your life. You play Peg in a band. You play, this one in a band. You learn, Home at Last for the Purdy Shuffle. That kind of stuff. But when you play 25 songs in a row, and then, of course, one of them is Asia. You are exhausted at the end. You're mentally exhausted at the end because there's so many of those type of shuffles and so many of those just like lay back type of grooves. And then there's Asia, and then there's Green Earrings, and then there's crazy stuff.
Man.
You were just like, I was exhausted by the end.
Who played the triangle part on Green Earrings?
It was a track.
Oh yeah,
It was
all
a
right.
track.
Nice.
Yeah.
It was there though.
It
has to be.
It was there. Yeah, I'll show you. I took a little bit of Asia. I'll show you the video. After
nice.
This, but it just made me think of like the Percaro shuffles and what Ash is doing, and just the idea of having to really drive the hell out of like a song like Black Friday, or
man.
Babylon Sisters, that kind of stuff. Although it was Purdy, geez, one of the hardest songs is a song called Ruby Ruby. I don't know if you know that song. It's a Fagan song.
Oh.
And it's just a but it's so against what the band is doing, and it's a Percaro thing, and I wanted to just kill myself. So I'm like, this is so hard, but
oh my God.
it was amazing. So anyway,
such good music. Well, I think we're going to be wrapping it up, but we should thank some companies.
Yes.
Prologix Percussion for one.
Yes. Jason and Andrew,
thank you so much for all your support, and of course, we love everything you guys do, and we love all your products.
God, such great stuff, man.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, guys, you've saved me at gigs this year for sure. It's funny. I've known Jason for years, and he thought I was with another pad company. And he's like, that's why I never like really talked about it. I'm like, no, I'm not with anybody else, and so we just solidified it at PASIC last time, and I'm just so happy to be involved with them because they are so good.
Yeah.
And I've gotten a couple students to buy. I got one student to buy a whole pad kit.
Oh,
and
nice.
A ton of guys were playing pads, and it's just great. So
yeah. All my peeps have now have Green Logix pads.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I live with
great.
mine. So Yamaha Drums, who I've been playing since.
Forever.
Forever. Yeah. And, the one thing about all my companies, as yours, I'm sure, is that I've made relationships with these guys. Yeah. And they're truly my friends. So Greg Crane and I'm trying to think of like everybody, Jim Haler, Daryl, so many people. Some people have left Yamaha too, you know what I mean? So like all these guys are just so wonderful. Everyone at Paiste. Kelly Paiste's best. Tim. So many people are just so incredible
You've been
people.
Paiste forever, right?
Yeah, I've been Paiste for. Tim, how long has it been now? Tim Shahady, are you out there, Tim? Probably 16 years.
Wow.
17 years. That kind of thing. And then Remo, Chris Hart, and Bruce Jacoby has been my personal guy at Remo for my whole time, and he's one of my closest friends. I talk to him more than I talk to family members. Yeah,
That's
we were checking in by text all the time.
Nice.
And he's so wonderful. Everyone at Vic Firth, obviously Joe Testa and Brian, and that's a weird situation too because the company merged into Zildjian and I'm with Paiste and stuff. So that's kind of a weird thing, but all nice people, all great people. Mike Berg at Humes and Berg, who's one of the most amazing people. Rob and Joe at Hudson.
Yep.
Guys for Prologix, guys at Kickport. And then everybody at my schools, Collective, New School, everyone down at UArts in Philly.
beautiful.
Him, that guy.
This guy over here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, man, so much fun tonight. I think we will do a revisit listening one.
We should.
We should definitely do that.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
We'll get some food. We'll come down. Maybe we'll have Mola. We'll prop him up in the corner.
We'll just throw food at him while we're talking. Right, Jim?
Yeah, Mola.
Mola.
Man, so I'm so glad we finally did this.
God,
and
yeah.
you know, the fact that we did it in person is amazing because I don't get this opportunity to do this in person. It's always, you know, and long distance mostly.
Yeah.
I just had Annika Nils on. You
Yeah,
know, it's like
I know.
We're streaming at
yeah.
different times of day, and you know, I actually felt bad. We were as we were getting, you know, sometimes the streams go long. You know how it goes. The sun was setting. Right, but it was noon.
I'm
here at noon,
Yeah.
right, and so we were a couple hours in. So it was evening, and she's teaching at a university, so she's sitting in the cafeteria in front of the window. She had all this nice natural light for her thing, and then the sun was coming down, so it was hitting her right in the eyes. So she put on her shades. She had like a hat and some shades, and then the sun got below her eyes, and she took the shades back off, and then I was like, oh God, it's like pitch black where you are. And I was like, we gotta end this. And she was like, yeah, I'm starving. I gotta go eat. So
that's awesome.
But it's kind of nice to like have this in person, you know, hang.
And I think this worked out perfectly because we had talked about it for a while. And I'm not the person that like hounds people, you know,
Yeah.
and everything that happened with COVID and not getting in person. So I think this timing worked out great where it's like, yeah, okay, let's make it happen and let's do it in person. you know? So
For
like,
sure.
yes.
Yeah. So killer. So I got any of my peeps that are local, I'm going to try to start doing more of this, you know, in the studio. Because I think, you know, it's nice just to get together.
Yep.
Have a meal, talk about drums.
Turkey clubs.
We both ordered turkey clubs.
I got the soft bacon though.
Yeah. I got the turkey bacon because I don't eat. I know.
You wimp.
I know. I don't eat ham. I
that's
don't
okay. I'm good.
you know, we got dietary restrictions. All right, so I'll see you guys next week. I want to thank my guest Jason Gianni for hanging with me tonight.
Dude, I can't honestly. I can't thank you enough. This has been
super
so
fun.
much fun. Yeah.
Don't forget this book, The Drummer's Bible, and look for a new publication that Jason's going to be putting out in the coming months or who knows, maybe next year sometime. But that'll be on Hudson.
Yep.
And look for my book, Filling in the Grooves, on Hudson.
Yes.
And I thank everybody for coming today. Next week, Joe Franco's on the show, which is going to be super fun.
I love you, Joe.
And the week after, Walfredo Reyes Jr.
Love you, Wally.
So yeah, I'll talk to everybody real soon. Thanks for hanging tonight.
Thanks, everybody.
And I got to put my glasses on so I can hit the right scene. Oh my God, I'm sitting so far away from the computer.
Your computer just blew up.
All right, good night, everybody.
Good night.
We'll see you soon.
Thanks, guys.